My birth mother knelt at my feet today, begging me in front of the whole neighborhood. She cried and said I was trying to steal my stepsister's job. Everyone watched and cursed at me, calling me greedy and ungrateful. But here's the truth. I'm not really the original Jiang Yan. I died fighting zombies in an apocalypse world and woke up in this girl's body in 1970s China. The real Jiang Yan died from the stress and heartbreak her own mother caused her. That's when I took over. My mother, Yang Hongyong, remarried into the Shi family. My stepfather is a factory boss. He has 5 kids, and my stepsister Shi Yuehua is the same age as me, 18. The thing is, I'm the one who passed the exam to become a nurse at the county hospital. But my mother wants to give my job to my stepsister and send me to the countryside instead. So she put on this whole show, kneeling, crying, even banging her head on the ground in front of me, to make everyone think I was the bad guy. She used to be a star performer in a theater troupe, so she knows how to act. But I'm not the quiet, timid girl they're used to pushing around. I shouted at everyone to shut up. I told them the test results are posted publicly at the hospital. Anyone can go check who actually passed. People started to think. They remembered that I grew up learning medicine from my grandfather, who was a doctor. Meanwhile, my stepsister could barely get through middle school. My mother had no choice. She finally admitted the truth. I was the one who passed the exam. But she wasn't done. She changed her angle and said sending me to the countryside was for my own good, hinting that I had done something wrong. Then she said something meant to hurt me, that no matter what I did, a boy named Shi Yan would never marry me. My mother dropped another bomb. She told everyone I had feelings for Shi Yan, her stepson, the oldest child in the Shi family. He's a government worker in the county, well-respected, with a bright future. Meanwhile, I'm the daughter of a disgraced intellectual. She made it sound like I was chasing him, and that sending me to the countryside was to protect me from making a fool of myself. Everyone looked at me with disgust. They whispered that I was shameless, that Shi Yan would never want me, that we were practically siblings. But I wasn't going to take it quietly. I pointed out the obvious. I'm a high school graduate who passed the nursing exam. I'd have a stable government job. Why would I throw that away over some average-looking guy? Shi Yan is short, dark-skinned, and plain-faced. I know I'm beautiful. That's exactly why people call me a fox spirit. But beauty doesn't make me guilty. Then my mother tried to shut me down, threatening me, telling me to stop talking. That's when I knew I had to hit back hard. I told everyone the truth. Shi Yan had come to my room at night. He tried to pry open my door and knock on my window. I wasn't the one chasing him. He was the one bothering me. The whole courtyard went silent. I told them I had set a hunting trap outside my door. The night Shi Yan came home, someone stepped on it and screamed in the middle of the night. People remembered hearing that scream. I said all anyone had to do was check the hospital records and look at the wound. The truth would be clear.
My mother panicked.
She dropped her weak, pitiful act and tried to slap me across the face. But I grabbed her wrist and squeezed hard. I'm not the old Jiang Yan anymore. I said loud and clear. I have evidence, and I want to file a formal report. A neighbor named Zhou Qianjin, a woman who has her own grudge against the Shi family, volunteered to run and get the authorities. My mother screamed at her not to go. The investigation committee arrived faster than I expected. In this era, they have real power, more than the police, even. When my mother saw them in their official uniforms, her legs went weak and all her bravado disappeared. I stepped forward and made my report officially. I accused Shi Yan, a government propaganda worker, of harassing me, his own stepsister. My mother tried to defend him, begging the officers to believe her. She said Shi Yan was a good kid, and I was lying. But the investigators weren't easily fooled. They asked her directly, "You're saying your own biological daughter is falsely accusing your stepson?" Then I played my trump card. The original Jiang Yan wasn't completely helpless. She had recorded Shi Yan's nighttime visits with a small tape recorder borrowed from her school. I pulled it out and hit play. Everyone heard Shi Yan's voice clearly. He was outside my door at night calling me good little sister, telling me to open up, saying disgusting things. He promised to take care of me, even after he married someone else. When I refused, he turned ugly, cursing me, calling me names. Then came a horrible scream, right when he stepped on the hunting trap. The recording cut off. The neighbors recognized his voice immediately. Combined with the scream they all remembered hearing that night, the evidence was overwhelming. My mother completely lost it. She screamed that I was a spy, an enemy agent, because how else would I have a tape recorder? She was actually trying to get me arrested, maybe even killed. Even the neighbors gasped at that. What kind of mother tries to destroy her own daughter like that? I calmly explained that the recorder belonged to my school and my teachers could confirm it. The investigators took me and my mother to their office. They moved fast. They went to the factory clinic and found Shuryan's medical records from that night, exactly matching my story. Then they went to his dormitory, found him nursing a leg wound, and brought him in. Meanwhile, my stepfather Shurdaily panicked. He knew he had no power against the investigation committee. So he ran, not to the committee, but to someone named Sue, someone he considered his real backer. Once my mother was inside the investigation committee office, she turned completely quiet, none of her tricks from outside. I handled their questions easily. The original Jiang Yen was a bookworm with a perfect memory who could recite political quotes backward and forward. Other than her family background, there was nothing anyone could use against her. I thought I'd be free to go quickly, but my mother was released first. The one who filed the report, was the one kept behind, locked in a room. A female officer looked at me with pity before she left. "Someone will come for you," she said. "Just not now." That told me everything I needed to know. I sat in that room and thought it all through. Shurihua must have run to tell her father. My mother and Shuryan were probably already freed. Shurdaily couldn't have done that on his own. He must have gone to the Su family. Su Haifeng was the vice director of the investigation committee. He used to be a street thug, but he was cunning and ruthless, and during the political chaos he climbed his way up to power. Shurdaily had been trying to get close to him for a while. Then I remembered something from the original Jiang Yan's memories. Su Haifeng has a son named Su Tian, who became paralyzed about a year ago and still has no wife. That explained the way Shurdaily had been looking at me lately like I was merchandise. He wanted to trade me to the Su family for their protection, but he'd been hesitating because he didn't want the reputation of selling his stepdaughter. Now, with Shuryan in trouble, he had no choice. When night came, Su Haifeng showed up in person. He was exactly what I expected, a former thug playing dress-up in an official's uniform, with slicked-back hair and a pen in his pocket. He got right to the point. He told me his son was a hero who was now paralyzed, and that I should marry him. He said I'd take care of Su Tian's every need, tolerate his bad temper, and keep any complaints within the family. He spoke as if it were already decided. I laughed in his face. He didn't like that. He turned threatening. He said the Shur family would never take me back. My job was gone, and going to the countryside would be dangerous for a girl who looks like me. He said people can disappear quietly, or be made to suffer. Marrying his son, he said, was my best option. Then he pulled out my tape recorder, the evidence I had submitted, and said if I didn't give him the answer he wanted by tomorrow, the recording could be turned against me somehow. He called me smart. I told him the truth. The thing I hate most in this world is being threatened. Su Haifeng didn't take me seriously. He told me I had until morning to agree to marry his paralyzed son, then locked the door and left a guard outside. What he didn't know is that I'm not the helpless girl he thinks I am. While I sat in that dark room, I figured out exactly what had happened. Shurdaily went to Su Haifeng for help, and in exchange, he offered me, like a piece of goods, to be Su Tian's caretaker wife. My mother and Shuryan were already free. Shuryan's record was clean, his future safe. Meanwhile, I was the one locked up. Back at their home, my mother was telling Shurdaily not to feel guilty. She said it was all my fault for not quietly giving up my job and going to the countryside. She even said marrying into the Su family was a blessing for me because they have money and power. Shurdaily pretended to feel bad, but in the dark, he smiled. They had no idea who they were dealing with. When the guard was sleeping, I made a loud noise to lure him in. The moment he opened the door, I struck him from behind and pinned him to the floor. He thought I was just a skinny, quiet girl. He was wrong. I grabbed him by the throat and squeezed until he could barely breathe. He agreed to talk. He told me his name was Zhang Sheng. I asked him about the power struggle at the investigation committee. The director, Lu Ji, and the vice director, Su Haifeng, don't get along. Everyone in the county knows that. Then I got what I really needed: Su Haifeng's home address and Lu Ji's home address. After that, I knocked Zhang Sheng out, locked the door behind me, and slipped into the dark streets. There's something I haven't mentioned yet. In my previous life, during the apocalypse, I had a special ability, a spatial dimension like a pocket world I carry with me. I used it to build the largest survival base in existence. I sacrificed it and myself to stop a zombie horde and save my people. But when I crossed into this body, the space came with me. Inside it, I have supplies, tools, and spirit spring water that strengthens my body. I drank some of that water, then jumped over the wall into Su Haifeng's courtyard. I told you, Su Haifeng, you don't have a chance anymore. Let me explain my space a little more. When the apocalypse started in my previous life, I awakened a spatial dimension. At first I thought it was just for storage, like other people's abilities. But mine was different. It had land, houses, forests, and a spring of magical water. The spring water heals wounds, restores energy, and if you drink it long enough, it pushes your body to its peak. Strength, speed, endurance, intelligence, everything. That's how I survived the apocalypse and built the world's largest survival base. There's also the Otherworld wheel, something bound to my space. It's incredibly advanced technology, maybe even alien. I call it Big Wheel. It can do almost anything. It's like a system with endless abilities. I activated its X-ray vision and scanned Su Haifeng's courtyard. Buried underground, I found 6 large chests full of stolen treasures: antique porcelain, bronze pieces, calligraphy scrolls, gold bars, jewelry. During these chaotic political times, people like him seize valuables from raided families and hide them, planning to sell them later or keep them as family heirlooms. Who knows how many families he destroyed to collect all this? I activated Big Wheel's sound barrier. Nothing within 5 miles could be heard. Then I pulled every buried chest into my space without even touching the ground. I slipped inside the house. Everyone was in deep sleep. Big Wheel made sure of that. I found more hidden goods under the floor tiles beneath Su Haifeng's bed. I took everything, left nothing behind, and Big Wheel cleaned up every trace of me. Not even a strand of hair. Then I ran to Director Lu Ji's apartment. He's Su Haifeng's rival at the committee. I placed the most damning evidence from under Su Haifeng's floor tiles right on Lu Ji's bedside table. I made it back to the committee office in under 2 hours. I woke up Zhang Sheng, sat down in my chair, and closed my eyes to sleep. He was too scared to bother me. He spent the rest of the night wondering what I had done, sweating through his clothes. At dawn, Lu Ji was already dressed and out the door before 6, skipping breakfast, making phone calls. By morning, a crowd of police officers and officials were banging on Su Haifeng's front door. His wife opened it, and over a dozen people swarmed into their courtyard. It had begun. Su Haifeng never imagined anyone in this county would dare to touch him. He walked into the interrogation room like he owned the place, smirking at Director Lu Ji. But the moment Lu Ji pulled out that black notebook, the one I had taken from under Su Haifeng's floor tiles, his face went white. That notebook contained all his secrets: bribes, illegal dealings, everything. He collapsed back into his chair and closed his eyes. It was over for him. They found the stolen goods, the cash, all of it. Su Haifeng was finished: bribery, abuse of power, corruption. And since I had been illegally locked up and pressured into a forced marriage, that was another charge added to his list. Once I was free, I filed another report, this time against my stepfather, Shi Dalei. I told the investigators he had made a deal with Su Haifeng to sell me to the Su family as a bride. Buying and selling people is illegal. Lu Ji's people were more than happy to pile more charges on their old rival's ally. I left the committee office before 8 in the morning. On my way out, I passed Zhang Sheng in the hallway and smiled at him. I told you he didn't have a chance. The fear in his eyes was satisfying. But I didn't go home. I went straight to the county hospital. I found the head nurse, Nurse Jean, and told her I needed to sell my nursing position. I explained that my mother had already signed me up to go to the countryside, so I had no choice. Nurse Jean understood immediately and didn't judge me. She found a buyer quickly. A nurse named Chin Fong had a cousin who needed a job to avoid being sent to the countryside. I sold the position for 800 yuan, a fair price. The cousin's mother thanked me over and over. That's what a real mother looks like, someone who fights for her child instead of selling her. Then came my real move. I went to the youth office where they register people for countryside assignments. The worker told me I was lucky. There was one spot left in Mo Province, up in the northeast. It's the best place you can get sent, rich farmland, strong economy. Meanwhile, my stepsister Shirihua had already been registered by my mother to go to the far northwest, the harshest, most miserable place possible. That had been meant for me. I put on a sad, gentle expression and told the worker a story. My poor stepsister has been mistreated in our family, and I wanted to swap our assignments. Send her to the good place, and send me to the hard one. The worker thought I was being incredibly selfless. Then she asked for my name. My stepsister's name is Jiang Yan, I said. My name is Shirihua. I swapped our identities. Now the real Shirihua would be sent to the brutal northwest, and I'd be heading to Mo Province, the best assignment available. I came back to the apartment with over 1,000 yuan in my pocket, 2 letters of introduction, and some official documents. It was working hours, so the compound was empty, perfect. I locked the front gate behind me and walked inside. My mother and Shirihua were in the back room talking about me, laughing about how I'd be stuck marrying a paralyzed man, calling me names. They had no idea Su Haifeng had already been arrested. I kicked the door open with a broom in my hand. Their faces were priceless. My mother's eyes went wide. Shirihua, too stupid to sense danger, jumped in my face and started yelling at me. So I swung. I beat them both with that broom. Arms, legs, everywhere. They screamed and jumped around the tiny room like monkeys, but there was nowhere to hide. I hit them in turns, one after the other, never missing. Every swing landed exactly where I wanted it. While I hit them, I let it all out. When you framed me, you forgot you were my mother. When you tried to sell me to a cripple, you forgot. When you called me a whore, you forgot. Now you want to play the mother card? Too late. I didn't stop until the broom fell apart in my hands. They collapsed on the floor, covered in welts and bruises, crying and cursing me. My mother screamed that she should have drowned me as a baby. Words like that might have destroyed the original Jiang Yan. They meant nothing to me. I sat down calmly and told them the truth. I would never marry Su Haifeng's son. If someone had to marry him, send Shirihua. Shirihua lost her mind and charged at me. My mother got up too, thinking 2 against 1 would work. It didn't. I kicked my mother across the room and grabbed Shirihua by the hair and jaw. She screamed for help, but nobody came. Before I arrived, I'd activated Big Wheel's sound barrier around the house. My mother could scream until her voice broke. Not a soul outside would hear a thing. I held Shirihua's face in my grip and reminded her of everything. How she used to pinch me, steal my things, take my watch, try to take my job. I told her I always pay back what I owe. Then I let go and she fell hard on the floor. I looked down at her and smiled. Shirihua, the best is yet to come for you. After I left, Shirihua and my mother were a mess, bruised, swollen, and furious. They planned to call Shir Daily home to deal with me, but when Shirihua got to the factory, she found out he'd been taken away by the investigation committee. With Su Haifeng's downfall, everyone connected to him was getting swept up. Shir Daily, Shir Yen, none of them would escape the fallout. Good. The more chaos, the better for me. I had bigger things to focus on preparing to go to the countryside. Let me explain the Zhang family history. My grandfather, Zhang Baitao, came from a wealthy merchant family. But he didn't care about business. He loved medicine. He studied abroad in Japan, came back, and built a hospital called Jishir Hospital. During the war, the family donated everything: money, supplies, free medical care for soldiers. They even gave the hospital to the country. True patriots. But when the political movements came, my grandfather's time studying in Japan was used against him. The family was ruined. My grandfather had two sons. The older one, my uncle Jiang Chao, joined the military and became a regional military commander. Both of his sons died as war heroes, one at 21, the other at 20. Uncle Jiang Chao's loyalty to the country was beyond question, so he was left alone during the purges. He used his influence to protect the family's assets and made sure my grandparents and father were sent to Mo province instead of somewhere worse. My father, Jiang Ci, was a university professor and doctor. He and my mother had two children, me and my younger brother, Jiang Chuancheng. Before the family's downfall, my parents seemed happy together. But 6 months before everything collapsed, they suddenly divorced. My mother took me. My brother stayed with my father. Later, my father sent my brother to live with Uncle Jiang Chao to protect him. So my father, grandparents, they're all in Mo province now. That's the real reason I want to go there. I'm living in the original Jiang Yan's body, so I owe it to her to look after her family. From her memories, her father was a good man, and her grandparents loved her dearly. I can't just ignore them. I headed to the department store to buy supplies for the journey, but then I realized, in this era, you need ration tickets to buy almost anything. I had money, but no tickets. My mother never gave the original Jiang Yan any. While I was standing there thinking about whether to try the black market, two women walked out of the store and nearly bumped into me. The older one, maybe in her 40s, snapped at me right away. The younger one, in her 20s, looked a lot like her, same mean face. When she recognized me, her expression twisted with jealousy and spite. Jiang Yan? What are you doing at the department store? Just my luck. As I was standing outside the department store, I ran right into Su Haifeng's daughter, Su Qiuxia, and his wife, Wei Lifang. Su Qiuxia was the original Jiang Yan's classmate and a truly terrible person. When the political movement started, she led the charge, smashing, looting, publicly humiliating teachers and students, raiding people's homes. With her father's power behind her, she feared nothing. She bullied the original Jiang Yan constantly out of jealousy over her looks. She once even tried to shave half her head as a punishment. It was actually Su Tian, the paralyzed son, who stopped that, though only because he wanted me for himself. After he got hurt, Su Qiuxia pushed her father harder to arrange the marriage. She didn't know I was the one who brought her family down. She mouthed off at me, and I gave it right back. I called her a dog blocking my path. She tried to hit me, but Wei Lifang stopped her. The mother was smarter. She noticed a crowd gathering and realized that with her husband just arrested, making a scene would only hurt the family more. She apologized, said they'd mistaken me for someone else, and dragged her daughter away. But I caught the look Wei Lifang gave me as she left. That wasn't the look of someone letting things go. We'd meet again. I went inside the department store and explored. For someone who lived through the apocalypse, walking through a 1970s Chinese department store was surreal. Everything felt like a museum. The candy sold loose by weight, the bolts of fabric on the second floor that people bought to sew their own clothes, the thermoses and enamel basins on the third floor, the expensive bicycles and sewing machines on the fourth. People wore blue, white, gray, and black, many with patches on their clothes. Nobody was embarrassed. Thrift was something to be proud of. Everyone smiled openly, without the tired, hollow expressions I remembered from the future. For the first time since arriving in this era, I felt grounded. This was real. I was real. I survived a zombie apocalypse and built the world's largest survival base from nothing. A little time travel wasn't going to stop me. But I had a practical problem. In this era, money alone can't buy things. You need ration tickets for almost everything. Cloth tickets, food tickets, industrial tickets. I had over 1,000 yuan, but not a single ticket to my name. I walked out of the store wondering where I could get some. The black market, maybe? While I was figuring out my ticket problem, things were falling apart for the Su family. Wei Lifang and Su Qiuxia had gone to the department store to buy gifts, bribes to get Su Haifeng released. But the people they tried to visit wouldn't even let them through the door. Someone even warned them to go home and start packing. Su Haifeng's crimes were too serious. Nobody could save him. Wei Lifang wasn't stupid. She knew that once the investigation went deep, the whole family would be dragged down. They'd all be sent to a labor farm, except maybe Su Tian, since he was officially recognized as a hero who got paralyzed saving collective property. That title might protect him. She made quick decisions. Their youngest son, Su Wen, would stay hidden at her brother's house. He was too young to be targeted. Su Qiuxia would register to go to the countryside before the investigators came for her. It was better than being sent to a labor farm. Su Qiuxia hated the idea at first, but she quickly realized she had no other options. She wasn't pretty, she wasn't nice, and with her father arrested, no decent family would marry her. The countryside was her best escape. Then Wei Lifeng turned to her real concern, who would take care of Su Tian. She told him she'd go arrange his marriage to me. Su Tian said I'd never agree, especially now that his family had lost everything. But Wei Lifeng just smiled coldly. She planned to pay off my mother. Once the deal was done, I'd have no choice. She sent Su Qiuxia to make a phone call and handle some errands. Once the daughter was gone, Wei Lifeng pulled out the family's hidden valuables, gold bars stored in a camphor wood chest. She split them between her two children, hiding them inside a wall behind a cabinet. She told Su Tian to hold his sister's share until she was older. What Wei Lifeng didn't realize was that Su Qiuxia had come back and was watching everything from the doorway. She saw exactly where the gold was hidden. While I was out dealing with my own plans, the Su family was busy scheming behind closed doors. Su Qiuxia had gone out to make a phone call, but came back early and overheard her mother splitting up the family's money. Wei Lifeng had hidden gold bars in the wall and gave shares only to her two sons. Su Qiuxia got nothing but cash. She was furious, but smart enough not to confront her mother. Instead, she decided to quietly steal the gold before she left for the countryside. Wei Lifeng moved fast. She withdrew 6,000 yuan from their savings, a fortune in this era. She gave 3,000 to Su Tian, 1,000 to Su Qiuxia along with ration tickets and some spending money, and kept the rest for herself, sewing it into the lining of her underwear. She knew she'd probably be sent to a labor farm and would need every penny. Their youngest son, Su Wen, was safely hidden at Wei Lifeng's brother's house. He was too young to be investigated. Then Wei Lifeng went to see the director of the youth office, a man named Ma Chonglin who owed Su Haifeng a favor. She used that debt to secure Su Qiuxia a spot going to the northeast for her countryside assignment, a much better place than the harsh northwest. After that, she went straight to our house to talk to Sherdalii and my mother. She wanted to arrange the marriage between Su Tian and me, as if nothing had changed. Sherdalii had already been released. He'd gotten lucky because the deal to sell me hadn't actually been completed before Su Haifeng's arrest. But Shi Yan was still locked up for his harassment charges. My mother and Sherdalii were confused. Su Haifeng was in prison. The family was ruined. Why would they still want this marriage? Wei Lifeng admitted openly that her husband was finished, and she herself would probably be sent to a labor farm. Even so, she still wanted me to marry her paralyzed son. My mother and stepfather sat there, baffled, wondering what she could possibly offer now. While I was out, Wei Lifeng came to our house and played my mother and Sherdalii like a fiddle. She knew exactly what kind of people they were. They saw me as a burden, not a daughter. So she laid out her offer. 500 yuan in cash, a stack of ration tickets, an almost new bicycle, and a barely used radio. All as a bride price for me to marry Su Tian. She sweetened the deal even more. She told them Su Tian's medical expenses are fully covered by the government for life, and his salary had been raised from 17 yuan to 45 a month, with more increases coming. She said they didn't need to provide a dowry. All that money would belong to me, which really meant it would flow back to them, since I'd have no one else to turn to. My mother's eyes lit up. She'd been terrified of me ever since I beat her with the broom. Getting rid of me and getting paid for it? Perfect. Sherdalii hesitated briefly. Marrying off a stepdaughter to a cripple would make people talk. But the money won him over. They agreed. Wei Lifeng wanted us to get the marriage certificate as soon as possible. No ceremony, no fuss. She'd handle the paperwork and find a way around the fact that Su Tian can't even leave his bed. My mother cheerfully agreed to everything. Outside the room, Shuriwehua was listening with her hand over her mouth to stop herself from laughing. She went back to bed giddy with joy, imagining me trapped in a miserable life, serving a paralyzed man forever. Everyone was satisfied with this deal. Sure, Daily I got money for selling his stepdaughter. My mother got rid of her burden. Shuriwehua got her revenge. Wei Li Fong got a caretaker for her son. Nobody cared whether I lived or died. I lay on my small, hard wooden bed and heard everything through Big Wheel. I asked it, do they really think I'm that easy to control? That I'll just let them push me around? Big Wheel told me that was the impression the original Jiang Yan had left behind. I smiled in the dark. Time to change that impression. That night, my mother and Sure Daily I lay in bed planning how to squeeze every last penny out of me. My mother calculated that once I married Su Tian, she'd demand 30 yuan of his 45 yuan monthly salary, leaving me just 15 to survive on. She said I owed them for protecting me all these years, that without them, a girl who looks like me would have been dragged into an alley and assaulted long ago. She said it was all my fate. Sure Daily I pretended to feel guilty, but in the dark, he was grinning. Then my mother said something truly vile. If I refused the marriage, she'd force me into Su Tian's bed. Just lying next to a man would be enough to ruin my reputation. People would say I was shameless, and I'd have no choice but to stay. Big Wheel recorded every word and relayed it all to me. I only had one thing to say. Let them dig their own graves. Meanwhile, Su Haifeng was still trying to help his family from prison, sending word to Wei Li Fong to hurry and settle everything. She rushed out early the next morning to handle paperwork. When she got home, she found Su Qiuxia screaming about the smell. Su Tian had soiled himself and couldn't do anything about it. He's paralyzed from the chest down and can barely move his hands. The person they'd hired to care for him had quit after Su Haifeng's arrest. Wei Li Fong put on a mask and cleaned her grown son herself. It was exhausting, disgusting work. It only hardened her resolve. She needed to get me married to Su Tian today so this job would become mine. Even Su Tian had doubts. He asked his mother whether she truly cared about him or just wanted someone else to deal with him. Wei Li Fong put on a show of being hurt, then reminded him that I was a nobody with no family support. Once I married him, I'd be completely dependent and unable to fight back. He could hit me, curse me, and I'd have to take it. Su Tian asked how they'd force me to agree. Wei Li Fong's eyes went cold. A woman lives and dies by her reputation. If her reputation is destroyed, she has no choice but to submit. Wei Li Fong and my mother had the same plan, ruin my reputation to force me into the marriage. They'd drug me or trick me into Su Tian's bed, then catch us together. In this era, a girl found in a man's bed is finished. They'd say I threw myself at a cripple to avoid going to the countryside. The shame alone would trap me into marrying him. Wei Li Fong had already gotten the paperwork ready, an introduction letter from the steel factory. She told her son he'd have a wife by tomorrow. Back at her house, my mother played nice with me for once, letting me go out without a fuss. She figured I had no money and nowhere to run. She planned to make her move tonight. But I already knew everything through Big Wheel. So I went on the offensive. I disguised myself as a plain, dirty-faced middle-aged woman and headed straight to the Su house. On the way, I passed Wei Li Fong and Su Qiuxia walking in the opposite direction, chatting about Su Qiuxia's upcoming move to the northeast. They didn't even glance at me. Once they were gone, I had Big Will set up a 500-meter sound barrier around the Su house and put Su Tian into a deep sleep. Then I activated X-ray vision and swept the entire place. I took everything. The gold bars Wei Li Fong had hidden in the wall. The thousands of yuan and ration tickets stuffed on Su Tian's body. The savings book hidden inside his pillow. The rice, flour, cooking oil. The bicycle, the radio, the watch. If it had any value at all, I cleaned it out. Big Wheel erased every trace. After that, I headed to the black market. I didn't want to risk it, but I needed ration tickets badly, cloth tickets, cotton tickets, industrial tickets, and I was running out of time. Using the original Jiang Yan's memories, I found the place, a maze of narrow alleys on the edge of town. I paid the lookout 2 cents to get in, playing the part of a country woman buying tickets for her child's wedding. He bought it completely. Inside, it was like a hidden little market. People moved constantly, never staying in one spot. A young man with a canvas bag approached me. He said he had every kind of ticket, but the prices weren't cheap. I asked him what he had. I pulled the ticket seller aside and told him I wanted everything he had: national grain tickets, cloth tickets, meat tickets, sugar tickets, cotton tickets, all of it. He had over 300 Gene worth of grain tickets alone, plus dozens of other kinds. After some haggling, we settled on 320 yuan. When I pulled out my money, a thick stack of bills, his eyes lit up with greed. I noticed him signaling to some people nearby, making a cutting gesture. He was planning to rob me after the deal. Classic black market trick. I pretended not to see. I paid him, took my tickets, and warned him not to get greedy. He just smirked. I walked out of the alley and headed toward the countryside instead of back into town. 2 guys followed me, his thugs. They weren't even trying to be subtle. I led them down quieter and quieter roads until we reached a spot with nobody around. Then I sat on a rock and waited for them. When they caught up, I smiled and asked if they were trying to walk me home. They were embarrassed and angry that I'd been toying with them. They pulled out tiny fruit knives and told me to hand over my money and tickets. I gave them one chance to walk away. They refused. So, I moved. Years of killing zombies in the apocalypse had made me something these boys couldn't begin to understand. In seconds, both of them were on the ground, vomiting from gut punches, unable to stand. They hadn't even seen my hands move. They thought I was an undercover cop and started confessing everything. They told me a man named Yuan Song, third brother, ran the operation. He was the one who sent them after me. The order was to take the money back by any means necessary. If they killed me in the process, it didn't matter. I let the 2 thugs go. They were just errand boys, not worth my time. I noted the name Yuan Song for later and moved on. I had shopping to do. I changed my disguise and headed back to the department store. First up, upstairs for the big purchases. I bought a Shanghai brand steel watch for 120 yuan and a Yellow River brand radio for 95, using the tickets I'd taken from Su Tian. His family had stacks of premium tickets that ordinary families couldn't collect in 5 years. I planned to sell the watch and radio I'd stolen from the Su house somewhere else. I didn't want anything those people had touched. Then I collected my government-issued supplies from a youth office: 2 Gene of cotton, 23 feet of cloth, and a little red sugar. Not nearly enough for a northeastern winter, so I bought 3 more Gene of cotton at the store, which was the limit per person. The truth is, my space is full of useful things from the apocalypse. I raided entire shopping malls, warehouses, and supply depots back then. I have over 100 military coats, mountains of bedding, and more supplies than I could use in a lifetime. But I can't just pull out modern-looking items in 1972, so I needed to buy era-appropriate versions of certain things: a thermos, enamel basins, aluminum lunch boxes. I bought fabric too: floral prints for clothes, plain cotton cloth for bedding, and work covers. Then I went downstairs and went wild on food: powdered milk, malted milk powder, tin biscuits, chocolate, white rabbit candy, fruit drops, tea, honey, and more. I bought whatever looked good. It all goes into my space where nothing spoils. At the grocery store, I couldn't resist the fresh meat. It looked nothing like the frozen stuff from my old world. I bought fish, pork, and beef, even though my space already has several cold storage rooms full of food. I spent 3 solid hours buying everything I could think of. For the first time since arriving in this era, I felt genuinely content.
No zombies.
No sleeping with one eye open. I could eat, stay warm, and live in peace. I hummed a song as I left the store. But I wasn't done yet. I changed outfits again, grabbed my new basket, and headed to the scrap collection station, the legendary treasure hunting ground for every time traveler. Bargain hunting in a junk shop. No way I was missing that. The scrap yard was guarded by a sleepy old man with a chipped enamel mug. I startled him awake. My black-in-disguise face nearly gave him a heart attack. Once he calmed down, he waved me in and told me not to make a mess. I activated Big Wheel's X-ray vision and scanned the whole place. I was hoping for hidden treasures in the old furniture, secret compartments with gold or antiques, but no luck. No rosewood, no sandalwood, nothing valuable. Someone must have picked this place clean already. I wasn't too disappointed. In the apocalypse, I'd looted entire museums. This was just for fun. Then I tripped over a pile of scrap metal and a small vase-shaped object rolled to my feet. It was covered in thick grime, impossible to identify with the naked eye. But when I looked at it with X-ray vision, my jaw nearly dropped. Underneath all that filth was an exquisite piece of June kiln porcelain, the kind of thing that could be the crown jewel of any museum. Someone had deliberately caked it with dirt to protect it. I carefully placed it in my basket. Next, I wandered into the book and newspaper section. I dug out some high school textbooks. I'll need them. The college entrance exam will be reinstated in about 4 years, and that's my ticket out of the countryside and into a new life. I'll be in my 20s by then, but the first year of the restored exam had plenty of older students, so I won't stand out. Then my X-ray vision caught something incredible. An old, moldy leather paper bag with something dark peeking through a tear. Inside, wrapped carefully in oil paper, was something enormously valuable. I could practically see money flying toward me. I slipped it between the pages of my textbooks. Unless someone opened the books and flipped through them, they'd never notice. I could have put it straight into my space, but I have principles. Treasure hunting is about skill and sharp eyes. If the seller can't spot what they're selling, that's the game. I wasn't going to cheat. I'd pay fair and square for what was in my basket. On my way out, I picked up a small broken mirror too. I woke up the old man again and showed him my haul, some books, a mirror, and a filthy bottle. He picked up the vase and squinted at it. You actually want this thing? It doesn't even have a lid. My heart was in my throat. Terrified he'd drop it. I'll wash it and use it for soy sauce, I said casually. He shrugged. 3 cents. 1 cent per item. Fair enough. My heart was racing as I left the scrapyard. For just 3 cents, I'd picked up a priceless June kiln porcelain vase and 3 complete sets of large dragon stamps, China's very first postage stamps. Each set alone could buy a house in Beijing. One of the sets included a rare, yellow 5-cent stamp. In the future, only one complete sheet of 25 was ever found. Now I had the second. Together, these treasures were worth tens of millions. Maybe fate sent me here to rescue these things before they rotted away in a junk pile. I ducked into my space, changed clothes, washed off my disguise, and headed to the investigation committee to get my tape recorder back. Zhang Xing nearly jumped out of his skin when he saw me. He rubbed his neck nervously, still remembering how I'd choked him, and rushed to fetch the recorder. Before I left, I asked him about Yuan Song, third brother, the black market boss who'd sent thugs to rob me. Zhang Xing's face changed. He warned me that Yuan Song was different from Su Haifeng. Yuan Song had a powerful backer, someone who kept the authorities from touching him. Anyone who'd tried to challenge his control of the black market had ended up dead. I appreciated the warning, but I wasn't worried. In terms of raw power, Yuan Song's protection was nothing but bubbles. I could make him vanish without a trace if I wanted. But I'm not interested in killing, that was for zombies. Robbing him back. Now that sounded fun. I told Zhang Sheng I was just asking casually. The smile I gave him clearly terrified him. After that, I washed my new lunch boxes in my space, packed them into my basket, and went to the state-run restaurant. The smell hit me the moment I walked in. Pure heaven. After years of apocalypse survival rations, real cooked food was my greatest weakness. I ordered big. 2 bowls of rice, 5 steamed rolls, 2 portions each of braised pork, braised fish, and tofu, plus a bowl of lamb soup. The server gave me a look and said wasting food was shameful. I pulled out my lunch boxes and told her some was takeaway. She handed me a ticket and told me to wait. While I sat in a corner waiting for my food, 3 rough-looking men walked in and sat across from me. The moment they saw my face, their eyes went wide and they couldn't stop staring. Let me explain something about my appearance. My mother was pretty in a way that fit this era. Round face, bold features, like a stage actress. I look nothing like her. I'm pale, almost glowing white in a time when nobody uses sunscreen, and most people are tanned. I have an oval face, almond eyes, and delicate features. People say I look like I stepped out of a painting. It's why I attract so much unwanted attention. At the restaurant, 3 thugs sat down across from me and stared without blinking. One of them whistled at me. The server, a sharp young woman named Ma Ling, noticed and called me to the window early, pretending my food was ready. She whispered that I should pack everything and leave quickly. She even offered to lend me containers. I liked her immediately. Once my food was packed, I left. The 3 men abandoned their table and followed me. Ma Ling tried to block them at the door, buying me time, but she could only stall for so long. I didn't need saving. I slowed down deliberately and led them into an empty alley. When they entered, I was gone, hidden in my space. They panicked, thinking I'd climbed a wall. I slipped out behind them and knocked all 3 unconscious before they even knew what happened. After dealing with them, I headed home, putting on my usual quiet, head-down act. What greeted me was suspicious. My mother was smiling, actually smiling at me. "Welcome home. Hurry and wash up. Dinner's waiting." She looked like a monster licking its lips. Shuriwehua sat at the table barely containing her glee. Sherdalii told everyone to eat with a little too much eagerness. Dinner was unusually generous: braised pork, scrambled eggs, rice, corn buns, and a plate of tofu with scallions. A feast for no reason. Everyone ate the meat and eggs, but nobody touched the tofu. I understood immediately. The meat and eggs were too expensive to waste by drugging them, so they put the drug in the tofu, the cheap dish. I took a bite of the tofu.
Yep, drugged.
I pretended to pass out from the drugged tofu. I slumped onto the table, then let myself slide off the chair onto the floor. They bought it completely. Sherdalii sent the youngest daughter, Shuriweshio, to her room. Then he and my mother carried me to a back room. Shuriwehua was shaking with excitement, hoping the drug would damage my brain and turn me into a vegetable. Sherdalii shut her down. If I became disabled, the Su family wouldn't want me, and Shuriwehua would have to go to the countryside instead. Then Sherdalii laid out his plan. Tomorrow was supposed to be my day to leave for the countryside. When I didn't show up, the youth office would come looking. The family would pretend to be shocked, saying I'd been missing all night. Then they'd reveal that I was at Su Tion's house, in his bed. The whole county would hear that I'd slept with a cripple. My reputation would be destroyed, and I'd have no choice but to marry him. My mother loved it. She was practically glowing. Something dark flickered in her eyes. She said as long as it was good for the family, she didn't care what happened to me. I could feel it in her voice. Destroying me wasn't just a side effect of her plan. It was the goal. She said she'd already ruined the older one, and now the younger one was almost done. She was talking about me and someone else from my father's family. Late that night, they loaded my unconscious body onto a bicycle and wheeled me to the Su house. Wei Lifeng opened the door. The 3 of them were about to dump me into Su Tion's bed when I made my move. I released a fragrance from my space that froze all 3 of them in place, standing like puppets, eyes blank, completely under my control. Su Tion and Su Qiuxia were already deep asleep. I opened my eyes and smiled. First, I took every cent Wei Lifeng had sewn into her clothes. I sent her back to her room to sleep. Then I cleaned out Su Qiuxia's money too. I sent my mother and Sherdalii home on autopilot. They'd remember nothing except that the plan had succeeded. I got back to the house before them and knocked out Shuriwehua and Shuriweshio. Then I ransacked the entire Shur household. My mother had brought valuables when she left my father, a box of small gold bars, over 5,000 yuan, and gold jewelry. She'd hidden it all so well that even Sherdalii couldn't find it. He had his own stash too, over 3,000 yuan plus the 500 in bride money from the Su family, hidden in a garment at the bottom of a chest. I took everything. I even took Shuriwehua and Shuriweshio's pocket money savings. When you do evil, you pay the price. Nobody escapes. Before leaving this county, I had one last score to settle: Yuan Song, the black market boss who ordered his men to rob and kill me. I disguised myself and slipped out into the night. Earlier, when I'd beaten those 3 thugs in the alley, the ones from the restaurant who followed me, I'd interrogated them thoroughly. They told me everything: where Yuan Song stored his goods, where he lived, and how his operation worked. His warehouse was in an abandoned clothing factory on the outskirts of town. The place had a reputation for being haunted, so nobody went near it. Perfect cover. I activated Big Will's barrier for 5 kilometers around and turned on X-ray vision. The first warehouse was packed with textiles, fabric, cotton, yarn, military coats, leather shoes, dresses, sandals, socks, bed sheets. Everything stored properly, no mold or pest damage. Yuan Song's backer clearly knew what they were doing. I emptied the entire warehouse into my space. The second warehouse had the premium goods, 7 bicycles, Flying Pigeon, Forever, Phoenix brands, all highly sought after. 4 sewing machines from different top brands. Radios, clocks, watches of every kind, including imported ones. I took it all. Underground, the cellar held rice, millet, soybeans, flour, and huge barrels of cooking oil. There were cases of Maotai liquor, worth about 8 yuan a bottle now, but in a few decades, each bottle would be worth tens of thousands. Hundreds of gin of white sugar. And then I spotted something truly special. 7 pills of Ongong Niuhuangwan, a legendary traditional medicine. In this era, the ingredients are still pure and natural. Wild, not synthetic. These pills are priceless. I grabbed every last one. I dumped the 3 unconscious thugs in the empty warehouse and locked the door. When Yuan Song's backers find the warehouses completely cleaned out, they'll think he stole everything himself. That kind of betrayal gets you killed. Then I went to Yuan Song's home, a tidy little courtyard behind the black market alleys. I scanned it with X-ray vision. 3 large chests of gold bars were buried in the yard. Inside the house, roughly 10,000 yuan in cash, a watch, a bicycle, a radio. In the kitchen, rice, flour, sausages, salt. I took absolutely everything. By the time I was done, his home looked like an empty shell. I wondered what would happen when Yuan Song woke up tomorrow to find his entire empire, warehouses, savings, home, completely stripped bare. Whatever his backer does to him, he earned it. I slipped back into the Sure house before dawn, loaded with everything I'd taken from Yuan Song. I looked around my tiny room one last time. I'd never be coming back. Early the next morning, I left with a small bundle, just a few worn-out clothes, nothing else. On my way out, I ran into neighbor Zhao, a kind older woman. I told her I was heading to the countryside, that my mother had signed me up behind my back, kept my allowance money, and hadn't prepared a single thing for me. Zhao was furious and ran inside to get me money and food tickets, but I was already gone. I didn't want her charity, I wanted her anger. I wanted people to know what kind of mother Yang Hongyong really is. At the train station, Nurse Jean from the hospital came to see me off. She saw my pathetic little bundle and felt terrible for me. I told her the family gave me nothing. She walked past our neighborhood on her way back, fuming. Meanwhile, back at the house, the youth office showed up banging on the door. My mother and Sure I woke up late. They'd slept through their alarms, still groggy from whatever I'd done to them the night before. They scrambled to get dressed, excited because they thought the officials were coming to ask about me, which would trigger their plan to expose me at the Su house. But the officials weren't asking about Jiang Yan. They were asking for Sure Yuehua. My mother and Sure I froze. The official showed them the registration form, Sure Yuehua's name, in black and white. She had personally gone to the youth office, registered for countryside duty, and even collected her settlement allowance. Now she was a no-show, which meant she was evading her assignment. That's a serious political offense. They tried to argue that Sure Yuehua had a nursing job at the hospital, but Nurse Jean happened to be right there. She stepped forward and announced officially that no one named Sure Yuehua had ever passed the hospital's nursing exam. Then, just as my mother was reeling from that blow, someone came running down the alley shouting the news. Sure Yuehua had been caught in bed with Su Tian at the Su house. My mother's eyes went wide. The plan had worked, just not the way they'd intended. It wasn't me in that bed. It was Sure Yuehua. By the time all this happened, I was already on a train heading northeast. But Big Will let me know everything. My mother's first reaction when she heard someone was caught in Su Tian's bed was pure joy. She launched into her rehearsed performance, wailing about how Jiang Yan had shamed the family by crawling into a cripple's bed to avoid going to the countryside. She made sure to say my name loud and clear so everyone would hear. Then neighbor Zhao shut her down. She told everyone she'd seen me leave that morning with nothing but a tiny bundle of old clothes, no money, no food tickets, not even bedding. I was already gone, already on my way to the countryside. My mother had stolen even my settlement allowance. My mother's face went white. If I was gone, then who was in Su Tian's bed? Sure Dalei suddenly realized Shi Yuehua hadn't come out of her room all morning. He ran inside, empty. Both girls were gone. The blood drained from his face. They sprinted to the Su house with half the neighborhood chasing behind them. Wei Lifang had done her part perfectly that morning. She'd peeked into Su Tian's room, saw a figure in his bed, and screamed for the neighbors. Everyone came running and found a girl in Su Tian's bed, wearing just an undershirt, pressed right up against him under the same blanket.
But it wasn't me.
It was Shi Yuehua. Wei Lifang nearly collapsed. Shi Yuehua woke up gagging from the smell. Su Tian had soiled himself during the night and scrambled out of the bed screaming that she'd never marry him, that this was supposed to happen to that little tramp Jiang Yan. My mother slapped a hand over her mouth before she could say more. Everyone saw through it. The neighbors weren't stupid. They could read the guilty faces. They knew this had been a trap meant for me that backfired. Some of them spat in disgust and walked away. The youth office officials were still there, unmoved. They reminded Shi Dalei that Shi Yuehua's name was registered for countryside duty. She had to go. Shi Dalei calculated fast, the way he always does. If Shi Yuehua went to the countryside, she'd suffer and eventually come crawling back with a ruined reputation. But if she married Su Tian now, she wouldn't have to go. He's paralyzed, so they wouldn't really have to live as husband and wife. Once Wei Lifang left for the labor farm and Su Qiuxia went to the countryside, Shi Yuehua would control the entire Su household and all of Su Tian's income. So he put on his noble face and announced that the two should get married. He called it her blessing, marrying a hero who was injured protecting collective property. Shi Yuehua stared at him with pure hatred and screamed, "Blessing? Marrying a cripple is a blessing? You want this blessing? Take it yourself." Shi Dalei slapped Shi Yuehua across the face to shut her up, then lectured her about how Su Tian was a hero. She ran home crying, my mother chasing after her. The youth office director, Li Haijin, wasn't fooled by any of it. She told Shi Dalei plainly, Shi Yuehua either marries Su Tian or goes to the countryside, specifically to the far northwest, to a desolate place called Shirkanbatsi in Huangsha County. The harshest assignment possible. That was my little gift. Shi Dalei's mouth went dry. He promised to bring a marriage certificate by tomorrow. Then the real chaos began. Wei Lifang finally looked around her house after all the spectators left and realized everything was gone. The bicycles, the radio, the money on Su Tian's body, Su Qiuxia's travel supplies, the gold bars hidden in the wall, even the cash Wei Lifang had sewn into her underwear. Everything I'd taken the night before. Su Qiuxia immediately blamed Shi Yuehua. She said the girl had robbed her paralyzed brother while sharing his bed. Shi Yuehua had followed them to the police station and heard this accusation. She flew into a rage, grabbed Su Qiuxia by the hair, slapped her twice, and knocked her to the ground. Then my mother stepped in to report that the Shi household had been robbed too. Over 8,000 yuan in cash, plus all of my mother's hidden gold bars and jewelry that even Shi Dalei never knew about, all gone. The house had been practically emptied. The police officer was bewildered. Two families, both cleaned out on the same night? That's when the pieces clicked together in Shi Dalei's head. Both families hid on the same night. The only person who'd been in both houses. The girl who was supposedly drugged unconscious. His face went pale.
"It's Jiang Yan," he said.
She was faking it. She wasn't unconscious at all. He was right. But I was already hundreds of miles away on a train heading northeast, with every last cent they'd ever owned tucked safely in my space. The police investigated both houses but found nothing. No fingerprints, no footprints, no evidence at all. Neighbor Zhao defended me fiercely, telling the officers everything. How I was mistreated, how my job was stolen, how my mother kept my settlement money, and how I left that morning with nothing but a tiny bundle of old clothes. The officers agreed with her logic. I weighed less than 100 pounds. How could a skinny girl carry bicycles, cash, and household goods from two separate houses in one night with no vehicle and no accomplice? Where would I hide it all? They had a witness who saw me leave with practically nothing. The youth office confirmed I arrived at the train station alone, without any luggage. No evidence, no case. My mother tried to insist, but a female officer rolled her eyes and told her not to throw accusations around without proof. They sent everyone home and said they'd keep investigating. Meanwhile, I was on the train heading northeast sneezing, probably because everyone back in Ping'an County was cursing my name. I didn't mind. Shuriwehua was marrying a cripple. My mother lost her hidden gold. Sure Daily Eye lost his savings. The Sioux family lost everything. And I had it all safely tucked in my space. The train was a rickety old green-skinned thing, slow, stuffy, and loud. The young people heading to the countryside were full of energy, singing revolutionary songs and introducing themselves. I had to join in or risk being labeled antisocial. When mealtime came, I pulled out a lunchbox of rice and tofu, nothing fancy, since eating meat in this era draws attention. But even that was enough to cause trouble. An old woman sitting across from me started loudly shaming me for eating luxury food, while her grandson had nothing. Her little grandson started drooling at my food and then crying. I wasn't about to share with someone who opened with insults. I shoveled the entire box into my mouth at record speed, every last grain of rice gone before the old woman could finish her lecture. The other young people grinned. When the boy saw my empty box, he wailed louder. The old woman cursed me, called me a fox spirit, said I should be shot. The little boy copied her, pointing his fingers at me going, bang bang, kill the fox spirit. I smiled sweetly and called them what they were, a pair of thick-skinned turtles. The kind girl next to me, who'd been eating a corn cake, burst out laughing so hard that she sprayed crumbs all over the old woman's face. Bits of corn got stuck in the wrinkles and wouldn't come off. The whole train car erupted in laughter. The train conductor came over when she heard the commotion. The old woman immediately played victim, claiming we were bullying her and her grandson. But the conductor was experienced. She could tell the old woman was trouble. I calmly explained that I was eating my own lunch, and the woman demanded I give it to her, then cursed me when I refused. Everyone in the car backed me up. The conductor warned the old woman that these were government-assigned youth heading to support rural development, and that interfering with us could be reported to higher authorities. That shut her up fast. The conductor moved the old woman and her grandson to another car. The whole section applauded. After that, I thanked the girl who'd been sitting next to me, the one who'd sprayed corn cake all over the old woman's face. Her name was Dong Shuang. She was easygoing and warm. It turned out we were both headed to the same place, Wadayaga Commune in Mo Province. What a coincidence. She told me her mother had made her a Tenjin cotton quilt, the thickest she'd ever seen for the freezing northeast winters. I could tell she came from a loving family with decent money. I wondered why someone like her would volunteer to go to the countryside. She said quietly that she just wanted to get away from home. Something in her eyes dimmed when she said it. I guessed it was about a man, some heartbreak. Then a round-faced girl sitting across from Dong Shuang spoke up. Her name was Chi Goiwe, and she was nasty from the start. She warned Dong Shuang not to befriend me, calling me a poor wretch who would mooch off her. She'd seen me at the station with nothing but a small bundle, no luggage, no bedding, no one to see me off. Dong Shuang got angry, but Chi Goiwe went further. She brought up Dong Shuang's most painful secret in front of everyone, that Dong Shuang's best friend, Wang Xiume, had stolen her boyfriend, a man named Lei Shua, and that was the real reason Dong Shuang was fleeing to the countryside. Dong Shuang's eyes turned red. That was her deepest wound, and Chi Goiwe had torn it open in public just to feel powerful. I'd been sitting still, holding back, but watching Dong Shuang's face crumble while Chi Goiwe gloated. That was enough. I grabbed Dong Shuang's water bottle, unscrewed the cap, and threw the water straight into Chi Goiwe's face. When I threw the water, people nearby quietly moved out of the way, basically giving me silent approval. Everyone knew Chi Goiwa had gone too far. She was drenched, face, hair, clothes, everything. She screamed at me, asking if I was crazy. I told her straight, if you're going to run your mouth, be ready for the consequences. What does other people's poverty have to do with you? Does tearing open someone's wounds make you feel good? She grabbed her own water bottle to retaliate, but I caught her wrist and squeezed until she dropped it. The bottle hit the ground and splashed water all over her shoes. I expected a bigger fight, but Chi Goiwa surprised me. She looked around, saw that everyone was on my side, took a deep breath and sat back down. She even picked up her water bottle. "You win," she said, then closed her eyes. She was smarter than I'd expected. She knew when she was outmatched and saved her pride by backing down publicly. But I could tell she wasn't done. She'd wait for the right moment to get back at me. That evening, Dong Shuang explained their history. They'd grown up together. Their mothers worked at the same place. Chi Gotiwa had always competed with Dong Shuang over everything. Dong Shuang told me her story too. She had 3 older brothers, and it should have been her youngest brother going to the countryside. But after the boyfriend incident, she couldn't stand being home anymore and volunteered to go instead. I worried about her. The countryside is especially dangerous for women. But Dong Shuang had good instincts. She warned me to stay away from Chi Goyue, which showed me she wasn't as naive as she seemed. At dinner, I shared 2 boiled tea eggs with Dong Shuang. She shared her homemade corn cakes with me, half wheat flour, sweetened with sugar. Chi Gotiwe watched us from across the aisle, eyes burning with jealousy. All she had left were plain corn cakes and a lump of pickled vegetables, but she was too proud to eat them in front of us. That night, while everyone slept, Dong Shuang dozed off leaning against me. In the darkness, I saw a hand reaching toward Dong Shuang's chest, going for her money. I slapped the hand hard with a sharp crack. The person yelped and pulled back. It was Chi Goyue. I'd thought it might be some random thief, but no, she was trying to steal Dong Shuang's money. The 1970s train was something else: green cars, rock-hard wooden seats, and no speed to speak of. In the morning, the car was pure chaos. I watched someone carry a live goose off the train, which left a parting gift on the floor that someone else stepped right in. The smell was memorable. At a station stop, workers came by with big teapots to fill water bottles. I handed mine out to a young worker. When he passed it back and I said thank you, his face turned bright red and he ran off without a word. Chi Goiwe watched the whole thing and muttered, "Fox spirit," under her breath. I glanced at her hand, the one I'd slapped in the dark last night. It was red and swollen. She noticed me looking and hit it fast. I smiled and said something about thieves crying thief. She flinched but recovered quickly, telling herself I had no proof. When the food cart came through, the conductor announced breakfast: rice, noodles, steamed buns, eggs, and a set meal. Most people bought something small. I still had snacks from my shopping spree, so I didn't bother. Dong Shuang had food from home too. But Chi Gothue, she made a big show of buying the most expensive option, a set meal for 35 cents. She waved her meal ticket in front of us like it was a trophy, making sure we saw. Dong Shuang just rolled her eyes. Chi Goyue had been like this since childhood, showing off every little thing. Dong Shuang shared her calcium milk biscuits with me. I took one and thanked her. Chi Gothue immediately started again, calling me a mooch, saying I was using Dong Shuang. So I reached into my bag and pulled out a jar of malted milk powder, a real luxury item, and set it on the table with a clunk. Chi Goyue's eyes nearly fell out. I scooped several generous spoonfuls into Dong Shuang's water bottle. The sweet smell filled the air. Chi Goyue swallowed hard and called me wasteful. Then, out of nowhere, the old woman from yesterday, the one the conductor had moved to another car, charged back over and reached for my jar of malted milk powder, trying to grab it right off the table. I snatched it away just in time and stuffed it in my bag. "What is this? Robbery in broad daylight." The old woman came back for round 3. She'd smelled the malted milk powder and charged over, her grandson sucking on his dirty fingers, demanding I make him a cup. But this time she had new ammunition. She called me a black category spawn, attacking my family's political status, and said I deserved to have my head shaved and be paraded through the streets. She couldn't have known that on her own. Then I saw who had fed her the information. Walking up the aisle were two people I recognized from school, Song Juran and Xiao Yan. Song Juran was trouble. He looked clean-cut and scholarly, but he was rotten inside. He'd been obsessed with the original Jiang Yan after seeing her beauty, and when she rejected him multiple times, he turned to harassment and threats, using her family's disgraced status as leverage. His family was powerful. His father worked in the county's organization department, and they had military connections. Even Su Haifeng wouldn't cross the Song family. He'd followed me to the countryside on purpose. He wanted to be near me, wear me down, make me fall for him, then ruin me.
Sick.
Xiao Yan was the girl beside him, hopelessly in love with Song Juran. She hated me because his attention shifted to me the moment I arrived at school. She'd followed him here, and now she was doing his dirty work, publicly pressuring me to share my malted milk powder and reminding everyone about my bad family background. She put on a sweet act, suggesting I should be generous to improve my reputation. The old woman puffed up again, and the little boy threw a tantrum on the floor screaming for malted milk. Dong Shuang jumped to my defense, mocking Xiao Yan's hypocrisy. Why doesn't she hand out her own money to everyone if she's so generous? I shut it down myself. I told Xiao Yan plainly, this jar costs 5 yuan and 80 cents of my own money. If she wants to play generous, she can buy her own. I don't owe anyone anything. Then I said it clearly for everyone to hear. Friends get good wine. Enemies get a shotgun. Someone nearby actually cheered. Xiao Yan tried her wounded act, turning to Song Juran for comfort. But he wasn't even listening to her. He was staring at me with glowing eyes, fascinated by how different I was from the timid girl he remembered. The old Jiang Yan was beautiful, but had no fire. I apparently had plenty. Meanwhile, back in Ping'an County, Zhang Sheng had just received shocking news. Yuan Song was dead. The black market had collapsed. Every warehouse, every stash, completely emptied. He thought back to what I told him when I asked about Yuan Song. Don't overthink it. I was just asking. He was starting to think he hadn't overthought it at all. The old woman and her grandson finally got off at their stop, but not before the train conductor gave them a lecture about trying to mooch off other people. The old woman was shaking in front of the conductor, completely different from how she'd bullied me. The moment they left, the whole car felt lighter. Dong Shuang sipped her malted milk drink in peace. Song Juran and Xiao Yan went back to their own car too, so I treated Dong Shuang to dinner in the dining car. She kept refusing, saying it was too expensive, but I dragged her along. We ordered braised pork, stir-fried cabbage, 2 big bowls of rice, and 2 bottles of soda. It was good, real cooking, not the bland box meals. I noticed they were selling Maotai liquor on the train, more expensive than in stores but no ration tickets needed. I was about to buy a couple bottles for my collection when Song Juran and Xiao Yan appeared again like flies I couldn't shake. Xiao Yan acted like we were best friends, trying to sit with us. I told her plainly that looking at them killed my appetite and to get lost. She kept repeating, but we're classmates, like it was a magic spell. I asked her if being classmates meant I owed her something. Was she broke and hoping I'd buy her dinner? Song Juran's face went dark. He dragged Xiao Yan to a nearby table where they ordered 4 dishes and sodas, like they were trying to prove something. Childish. The next 2 days were peaceful. Nobody bothered us. Then the train pulled into a small county station, and it was finally time to get off. I had my small bundle, easy to carry. Dong Shuang had a bedroll on her back and 2 heavy bags. I offered to carry one, but she refused. She thought I was too delicate. She had good boundaries, unlike some people. Right on cue, Xiao Yan called out from behind, asking me to carry her bag since I didn't have much. Dong Shuang blocked her with her body, and we walked off the train without looking back. Xiao Yan had weighed herself down carrying Song Juran's luggage to impress him, and she could barely get off the train. When she finally made it outside, she found Song Juran standing in front of me with a bright smile, trying to charm me. She couldn't hear what he was saying, but his expression was adoring, like he was looking at a treasure. She stormed over, threw her bags on the ground, and screeched at us. What are you doing? Jiang Yan, how could you?
You.
How dare you? Over 100 young people got off at this station, all waiting for the youth office to arrange the next leg of the journey. Xiao Yan's dramatic outburst had drawn everyone's attention, and people were staring at me, some mocking, some leering. My face is always the problem in this era. People see a beautiful girl and assume the worst. Song Jiren played innocent, smiling and saying we were just classmates, waiting for me to show jealousy. These two lived in their own fantasy world. I cut through their nonsense with one question. Xiao Yan, what exactly is your relationship with Song Jiren? Are you dating? Are you engaged? That forced Song Jiren's hand. He immediately denied any romantic relationship with her. Xiao Yan's face went white. I pressed harder. If they're not together, then Xiao Yan had no right to accuse me of anything. Then I delivered the final blow. Just because you enjoy eating garbage doesn't mean everyone else does. The crowd roared with laughter. Dong Shuang was dying. Everyone understood what I was really saying about Song Jiren. He was furious and reached for my shoulder. The instant before he touched me, I ducked down like I was tying my shoe. He somehow tripped, I may have helped, and fell flat on his face in front of over 100 people, scraping his chin raw. Xiao Yan rushed to help him and tried to blame me, but nobody saw me do anything. I was just tying my shoe. I noticed something interesting. A tall figure watching from the shadows pulled back quickly when I glanced that direction. Someone was observing me. The youth office workers arrived and shut down the drama. Song Jiren and Xiao Yan had to swallow their humiliation. We were heading to Victory Brigade, Wadaega Commune, Fongrao County, Songyun City, Mo Province. The station was still over 100 kilometers from our destination, no direct train, and the daily bus was already gone. They loaded all of us and our luggage onto an open-top liberation truck. The roads were dirt. 5 hours of eating dust. I pulled out 2 scarves from my bag, wrapped one around my face, and gave the other to Dong Shuang. She was thrilled. Xiao Yan asked if I had an extra one for her. I didn't even open my eyes. No, she was the kind of person who'd slap you and then ask to borrow your handkerchief to wipe her hand. Meanwhile, Song Jiren sat in his corner with dark eyes. He knew I'd tripped him. He'd decided something. If he couldn't have me, he'd destroy me. After 5 hours of bouncing on dirt roads, we finally reached Fongrao County around 6 in the evening. Everyone looked like mud people, sweaty, dusty, exhausted. Dong Shuang and I were in slightly better shape thanks to the scarves. A youth office worker gave us a long, flowery welcome speech about building the countryside and having bright futures. Nobody was buying it. We were starving, filthy, and just wanted to eat and sleep. Dong Shuang leaned over and whispered, "Half an hour of nonsense. They told us we'd stay overnight at a county guest house since the communes were too far to reach at night. The guest house was basic, 4 floors. Women on the second, men on the first. Our room was several rooms knocked together into one big dormitory with simple wooden plank beds." Xiao Yan complained about the setup. A girl with glasses who'd been appointed temporary squad leader shut her down fast, saying we were lucky to have free beds at all. Private rooms cost nearly 3 yuan a night. Xiao Yan couldn't afford that. She only had about 120 yuan total, and her family had taken half her settlement allowance. I helped Dong Shuang set up, then we headed out to find dinner. At the front desk, I slipped the attendant 2 white rabbit candies and she happily gave us directions to the state-run restaurant nearby. Dong Shuang insisted on treating me this time. She remembered the meal I'd bought on the train and wanted to return the favor. She bought noodle soup, flatbreads, and a plate of sliced pork with chili oil. She also bought 4 extra flatbreads for tomorrow morning, in case we couldn't get breakfast before leaving. Smart girl. I gave her a thumbs up. We ate quickly and headed back toward the guest house. But 2 men followed us out of the restaurant and blocked our path. They were nervous, not threatening. The taller one quickly said they weren't bad people. The shorter one asked if we wanted goods. Dong Shuang grabbed my arm and started walking away, saying we weren't buying anything. But I was intrigued. Were black market sellers actually coming to us now like door-to-door salesmen? The 2 men wouldn't let us pass, insisting their goods were cheap, and we'd be fools not to look. I picked up a brick from the ground and pointed it at them. They backed off, until Xiao Yan appeared out of nowhere, asking what they were selling. I told her to come back to the guest house. She rolled her eyes and said I had no right to stop her from shopping. The two men's eyes lit up. They'd found an easier target. They offered her dresses, rice, meat, and canned goods at great prices if she'd just follow them somewhere. She was about to walk off with them. I couldn't let that happen, not because I cared about her, but because a missing youth would delay everyone's assignments. So I shouted loudly about reporting illegal trading to the authorities. The two men cursed and ran. Xiaoyan was furious at me for scaring off her bargain. She didn't realize I'd just saved her from human traffickers. Dong Shuang asked how I knew they were dangerous. I explained. The goods they described are hot sellers that never need discounting. If something sounds too cheap, it's a trap. As long as you never chase a bargain that's too good to be true, you'll never get cheated. We slept well that night. The next morning, all the young people gathered at the youth office courtyard. Various production teams had come to pick up their assigned workers, some with tractors, some with ox carts, horse carts, or mule carts. Dong Shuang was hoping for a tractor, since that would mean a wealthier village. But our team, Victory Brigade, Wadega Commune, sent just one mule cart. Our brigade leader, Bao Zhigua, was a dark-skinned, muscular farmer in his 40s who looked us over with obvious disappointment. 4 skinny girls and 3 boys who looked like they'd never touched dirt. Our group of 7 was full of familiar faces. Me, Dong Shuang, Xiaoyan, Song Jiaran, Qi Guiyue, and 2 boys from the train, Bai Qinghao and Geng Jibin. The mule cart barely fit our luggage, let alone us. Bao Zhigua said we'd walk and take turns sitting. Xiaoyan and Song Jiaran immediately jumped onto the only 2 seats. Dong Shuang was speechless at their selfishness. But I wasn't paying attention to any of that. I was watching 2 ox carts pulling away from the yard, the ones heading to Qinghe Brigade. Qinghe Brigade. That's where my family, my father, my grandparents had been sent. They were close. Victory Brigade was 40 kilometers from the county town, half of it mountain roads. We'd have to walk most of it. Before anyone could react, Qi Guiyue and Xiaoyan scrambled onto the mule cart like monkeys and claimed the only 2 seats among the luggage. The 3 guys didn't want to argue with women about it, and Dong Shuang and I weren't about to wrestle them off. Brigade leader Bao Zhigua watched everything silently, then cracked his whip and we set off, 5 of us walking behind the cart. The countryside was beautiful. Golden wheat fields rippled like green waves. The air smelled of earth and plants. After years in the apocalypse, where every patch of soil was poisoned and zombies could leap from any shadow, this peaceful landscape felt like paradise. Of course, Qi Guiyue and Xiaoyan couldn't just enjoy their stolen seats quietly. They kept taunting us about how comfortable the ride was, how nice the breeze felt, fake complaining about aches and pains to justify keeping their spots. Dong Shuang was fuming. I didn't care. Watching fools perform is free entertainment. Then Bao Zhigua called out to someone ahead. An old man named Lao Luo appeared with a second ox cart, completely empty, room for all 5 of us. That's when it clicked. Bao Zhigua had planned this. He'd said there was only one cart to see who would selfishly grab the seats. Qi Guiyue and Xiaoyan had exposed themselves as exactly the kind of people he'd need to watch, the scheming, lazy type who'd cheat the collective. Meanwhile, the 5 of us who walked without complaint got rewarded with a comfortable, spacious ride. One simple test revealed everyone's true character. Dong Shuang was beside herself with joy. She waved her water bottle at the other cart, bragging about her sweet iced sugar water. Those 2 were dying of thirst from all their trash talking. They drunk their water early and had nothing left. I noticed one of the male-educated youth, Geng Jibin, kept sneaking glances at me and sweating profusely. His friend Bai Qinghao patted him and offered a handkerchief, thinking he was overheated. Geng Jibin wiped his face with his sleeve and muttered something about calming the mind to cool the body. Geng Jibin couldn't stop staring at me. I could feel his eyes burning into me the entire ride. Even Dong Shuang noticed and whispered, asking if he might have bad intentions. She wasn't exactly quiet about it either. In a cart this small, everyone heard. Geng Jibin turned away in embarrassment. His friend Bai Qinghao just smiled knowingly. What I didn't notice was Bai Qinghao quietly analyzing me. He'd spotted my new watch and figured out what others had missed. Someone who can afford a watch isn't poor. I either had money to buy supplies at our destination or had shipped my things ahead by mail.
He was sharp.
He also concluded that a girl like me wouldn't fall for someone like Gung Jibin.
He was right about that too.
Meanwhile, on the other cart, Xiao Yan was scheming. She'd noticed Gung Jibin's crush on me and started cooking up a plan. If she could push me toward him, maybe Song Jiren would finally be hers. The road took us into the mountains. Victory Brigade's old name was Kaoshan Village, lean on the mountain, surrounded on 3 sides by peaks. The scenery was stunning. A wide, crystal-clear river ran past the village entrance, with children splashing along the banks. Bao Zhigua shouted at them to scatter, not because he was mean, but because the river floods dangerously during rainy season. We crossed a bridge into what looked like a painting, green mountains, flowing water, farmland stretching in every direction. Dong Shuang was enchanted. I reminded her that the romance would fade once she was knee-deep in mud doing farm work. The production team compound was impressive, a large courtyard with offices, grain storage, a meeting hall, and equipment rooms. Bao Zhigua gave us a quick tour, then led us to the youth quarters at the back of the village.
My heart sank when I saw them.
The compound sat on a hill, surrounded by rough mud brick walls. The gate was made of wooden poles nailed together with gaps big enough to see through. The houses were low mud brick buildings that looked like the builders had cut every corner. The yard was full of potholes. The whole place looked about as sturdy as a beggar's rags.
This was home now.
The youth quarters were rough. 8 mud brick rooms, 4 for women on the east side, 4 for men on the west. Separate entrances, which was smart planning on Bao Zhigua's part. But the buildings looked like they might collapse in a strong wind. The surrounding village wasn't much better. Almost every house was the same crumbling mud brick style. Only a handful of proper brick houses existed in the entire village. I'd been prepared for poverty, but the others were stunned. Qi Guothiwe could barely contain her disgust. Bao Zhigua was proud of the setup, though. Apparently other brigades had it much worse. A pale-looking young woman named Chang Li came out to greet us. She was the women's squad leader, part of the first batch of educated youth sent here nearly 4 years ago. She was clearly unwell. Bao Zhigua told her to focus on recovering and just help with cooking for now. She showed us around. The kitchen had an enormous iron cooking pot. Dong Shuang said it was the size of her childhood bathtub. The eastern room was large enough for 7 or 8 people on the heated brick bed platform. The western room was smaller, fitting about 4. Everything was bare and dusty, newspaper pasted on the walls turning yellow, a couple of low tables, some small stools. The existing youth had wooden chests with locks for their belongings. Xiao Yan immediately claimed the western room for herself and Qi Guoyue, pushing Dong Shuang and me into the eastern room. Dong Shuang argued on principle, but Chang Li diplomatically told everyone to work it out together. I could tell Chang Li was sizing us all up. She saw Xiao Yan and Qi Guoyue as troublemakers, Dong Shuang as a pampered but kind-hearted girl, and me. She frowned slightly at my face. She knew that in the countryside, beauty in a female youth worker is more curse than blessing. Chang Li gathered everyone and explained the basics. We had 2 days off to buy supplies before work started. The brigade mainly grew soybeans, corn, and wheat. Men and women cooked separately since men ate more, and sharing would cause resentment. She was mid-sentence when she suddenly clutched her chest, gasping for breath, her face twisted in pain. Medicine, she managed to say. Chang Li collapsed right in front of us, drenched in sweat, turning purple, gasping for air. Everyone froze. Qi Guoyue jumped away like it was contagious. Xiao Yan backed up too, announcing it had nothing to do with her. I ran into the western room where I'd noticed a medicine bottle on the bed platform earlier. I grabbed it, ran back, and asked Chang Li how many pills. She held up 2 trembling fingers. I put them in her mouth. Within 30 seconds, she was breathing again. After she recovered, Xiao Yan and Qi Guoyue suddenly changed their minds about room assignments. They didn't want to share a room with someone who could have a heart attack in the middle of the night. They grabbed their things and moved to the eastern room, the bigger one they'd originally wanted us to have. Dong Shuang was livid at their shamelessness. First they fought to get the better room, Now they were dumping the problem room on us. But I whispered something in her ear, and she brightened up immediately. Here's what they didn't know. When I grabbed Chong Li's medicine, I also saw her medical discharge papers. She was approved to return to the city on medical grounds. Once she left, Dong Shuang and I would have the entire Western room to ourselves, quiet, private, comfortable. Those two would be crammed into the Eastern room with everyone else, regretting everything. Chong Li woke up, and we sat together talking. She told us the village people were warm and kind, especially the brigade leader's family. Then someone kicked the gate open. A young man named Lu Xiaoshu, panting, shouting that something terrible had happened. Brigade leader Bao Zhigua's 3-year-old grandson, Xiao Bao, had fallen into the river and drowned. Dong Shuang and I sprinted to the riverbank. A crowd had gathered. Bao Zhigua was holding the child's limp body, sobbing, his massive frame shaking. The grandmother was trying to throw herself into the river, screaming that she wanted to die too. Everyone was crying, mourning. But I activated my X-ray vision and saw something nobody else could. The child's heart was still beating. Faint, barely there, but beating. He wasn't dead. I lunged forward and grabbed the boy from Bao Zhigua's arms. Give me the child. Everyone thought I was crazy when I grabbed the child. But I could see with my X-ray vision that Xiao Bao's heart was still beating, faintly, but alive. I knelt in front of Bao Zhigua and told him his grandson was still alive and I could save him. He didn't hesitate. He handed the boy over immediately. Say what you will about him, the man has guts. I cleared the child's airway, then held him upside down by the ankles to drain the water from his lungs and stomach. Nobody here had ever seen anything like it. They all watched in tense silence. Then I laid him flat and started chest compressions, 5 presses, then mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Over and over. In 1972 rural China, almost nobody knows CPR. I was lucky the patient was a toddler, or the gossip about a girl pressing her mouth to someone's face would have been unbearable. Then Xiao Bao coughed up water and started crying. The crowd erupted. People were clapping, calling me a miracle worker. The grandmother crawled over on her hands and knees, thanking me. Bao Zhigua held his grandson tight, looked at me once, no words, just a look, and walked away to take care of the boy. After that, the village women swarmed me, asking if I had a boyfriend. I fled back to the youth quarters. When the other educated youth returned from the fields, we did proper introductions. The existing group included squad leader Zhao Gang, Li Zhenghe, a shy guy actually named Qin Ming, a talkative fellow named Wang Hui, and a small, thin man named Su Fengshen. On the women's side, there were Wang Shiyu and Hu Meihua besides Chong Li and Lu Xiaoshu. When it was my turn to introduce myself, the yard went wild. Everyone had already heard about me saving Xiao Bao. Wang Hui couldn't stop praising me. Then Xiao Yan struck. In her sweet, innocent voice, she told everyone about my family background, my grandfather who studied in Japan, my doctor father, who became a university professor. She made sure to mention I was from a wealthy family that had been brought down. Then she pretended to catch herself. Oh, I'm sorry, Jiangyan, I didn't mean to say you're a capitalist daughter. She knew exactly what she was doing. In this era, that label is poison. She was trying to turn everyone against me before I even had a chance to settle in. I watched her performance coldly and let her keep going. Xiao Yan's little stunt backfired immediately. The old youth workers saw right through her. She'd exposed herself as manipulative on her very first day. Lu Xiaoshu called her out directly for lying with her eyes open. Every male youth worker mentally crossed her off their list. I decided to address my family background head-on before anyone could weaponize it later. I told everyone the truth selectively. Yes, my grandfather studied abroad and started a hospital, but the family donated it to the country. My father was just a teacher earning a salary. And most importantly, both my cousins died as war heroes. That last part changed everything. Having martyrs in the family means your political standing is solid. Everyone relaxed. Squad leader Zhao Gang gave a stern speech about unity and reminded the newcomers that their behavior here directly affected their chances of returning to the city someday. Bao Zhigua controlled the paperwork, recommendation letters, certificates, and if you caused trouble, he could refuse to sign. That sobered up Xiao Yan and Qi Guiyue fast. Chong Li explained the work system. Full work points were 10 per day, and at year's end, you exchanged points for grain and money. Slack off, lose points, go hungry. When Xiao Yan whined about women having to carry water, asking the men to show some spirit and do it for them, a talkative guy named Wang Hui mocked her perfectly, mimicking her pouty voice until the whole group was laughing. He pointed out that all the existing female workers carried water just fine. The team was genuinely welcoming. They shared their food for a group dinner to celebrate our arrival. Old workers contributed canned goods and peanuts. Our grain rations hadn't been distributed yet, so we were eating on their generosity. Then Xiao Yan volunteered to buy eggs from the village for the welcome dinner, not out of kindness, but to make herself look good. And naturally, she couldn't resist one more dig at me. Jiang Yan, you didn't bring anything, so you can't really contribute. But I remember you have that jar of malted milk powder in your bag. Why don't you share it? Make everyone a cup. That can count as your contribution. Lu Xiaoshu shut Xiao Yan down hard. She pointed out the obvious. Eggs cost almost nothing, while a whole jar of malted milk powder wouldn't even be enough for 1 cup per person. The old youth workers weren't going to tolerate manipulation. Dong Shuang got fired up too. She marched into our room and came back with a package of cured sausage, a real luxury, and slapped it down as our contribution. Jiang Yan has me, she declared. Qi Guiyue's eyes practically popped out of her head at the sight of it. I told Dong Shuang later she shouldn't have let them bait her into giving away her precious food. She shrugged and said it was worth it to make a good impression on the group, even if she hated that those two would get to eat some. Xiao Yan and Qi Guiyue came back with eggs, trying to smooth things over after making enemies on their first day. Smart enough to realize they'd gone too far, at least. Everyone pitched in to cook. The men chopped wood and hauled water. We women washed rice, picked vegetables from the garden, and prepared the dishes. The meal turned out wonderful: scrambled eggs with peppers, sausage stir-fry, cabbage with cured pork and glass noodles, fried peanuts, egg sauce, and fresh radishes with scallions. For countryside youth workers, this was practically a holiday feast. After dinner, Bao Zhigua showed up carrying a large bundle.
He came to see me.
Everyone scattered to give us privacy. Xiao Yan and Qi Guiyue could barely tear their jealous eyes away from the gifts he'd brought. I told him I didn't save his grandson for rewards. He nodded, then said something that surprised me. By local custom, I should be Xiao Bao's godmother since I saved his life. He quickly added that since I was young, we'd skip that, but from now on, our two families were connected. If I ever needed anything, I should come to him. Then his tone shifted. But I need to be clear. Public matters and private matters are separate. You saving Xiao Bao makes you my family's benefactor, and that's personal. But at work, I treat everyone fairly. You understand? I smiled. I understood perfectly. And I respected him more for saying it. Bao Zhigua left his gifts and wouldn't take no for an answer. He said we were family now, and if I refused, he'd go full traditional, slaughter a pig, and have little Xiao Bao formally call me godmother. I definitely didn't want to become mom at 18, so I accepted. The bundle was generous. A bed sheet, a towel blanket, a buckwheat pillow, pillowcases, a pretty piece of floral fabric, and 2 small bags of grain, about 5 jin of white flour, and several jin of rice. Dong Shuang and Chong Li said this was serious gift-giving. The sheet and towel blanket were new, probably set aside for Bao Zhigua's second son's future wedding. I understood the unspoken exchange. He told me earlier that public and private were separate. He was warning me not to use the favor I'd earned to get special treatment at work. Fair enough. I respected that. That first night on the hard earthen bed platform, listening to frogs and insects, I slept better than I had in ages. Before dawn, Chong Li was up cooking. I joined her. She explained that breakfast was always porridge, corn grits that needed a long time to cook. No bread, no side dishes except raw vegetables from the garden. No oil, no protein. I could see why educated youth aged 10 years in a few seasons out here. When everyone ate, Xiao Yan immediately complained about the food being terrible and having no nutrition. Chong Li snapped back. You didn't bring your own grain. You're eating other people's food, And you're complaining? Cook your own meals if you want better. After breakfast, Dong Shuang and I headed to the village entrance to catch the mule cart to town. We needed supplies urgently. Our grain rations hadn't been distributed yet, and we were surviving on the old workers' generosity. Qi Geyue and Xiao Yan decided to come too. Xiao Yan made sure to swing by the men's quarters to invite Song Jiren along. Some things never change. The mule cart took nearly 2 hours to reach town. Old Luo parked in the center and told us to be back by 2:30 sharp, no exceptions. Before we could leave, Xiaoyan appeared with her fake friendliness, asking if I wanted to go to the supply store with them. I ignored her. Then Song Jiren jumped in, scolding me for being rude and not responding to her. He actually asked if I was upset because he and Xiaoyan were too close. I lost my patience. I told him plainly. He was nothing to me, less than nothing. I called him garbage to his face. His skin turned from white to red to purple. Xiaoyan rushed to defend her. Jiren Gij. Big brother Jiren. In the most nauseating baby voice. Dong Shuang nearly vomited on the spot. She mimicked Xiaoyan's voice, made a gagging face, and dragged me away. We went to the post office first. Dong Shuang needed to call home. Her mother had made her promise to phone the moment she arrived. Phone calls were expensive in this era, but her family loved her enough to pay. While she waited for the call to connect, I bought stamps and picked up my packages. Of course, I didn't actually have packages mailed to me. I'd prepared 2 large sacks of supplies from my space beforehand and collected them at the window. When Dong Shuang came out, she saw me standing outside with 2 big bundles and was thrilled, proof that I wasn't the penniless wretch Xiao Yan kept calling me. Dong Shuang's eyes were a little red after her call. She tried to play it off, complaining that her mother talked too much, and it cost extra. But I could tell she was homesick. A girl raised with so much love, suddenly alone in a strange place far from everyone she knew. I comforted her, stay healthy here, write letters often, and there's always home visit leave. Then she asked if I wanted to call my family too, or at least send a telegram. Dong Shuang asked if I wanted to contact my family. I was quiet for a while, then decided to tell her the truth, at least part of it. I told her my parents divorced, that my mother remarried and treated her stepchildren like royalty while treating me like trash. I told her about the nursing job I'd earned being stolen, about being forced to go to the countryside, about my mother trying to sell me to a paralyzed man for 500 yuan. Dong Shuang exploded. She cursed my mother the entire walk to the supply store. Her anger felt warm. She genuinely cared. I told her I'd sold my job, bought supplies, and mailed them ahead. I wasn't suffering. She promised to keep my secrets and never tell a soul. We picked up my 2 big sacks from the post office, really just supplies I'd prepared from my space, and left them with old Luo at the cart. Then we hit the supply store. I bought a few things for appearance's sake. Egg cakes, noodles, candy, red sugar, and some personal items. Dong Shuang loaded up on snacks. Neither of us was short on money or ration tickets. At the state-run restaurant, we ran into Xiao Yan, Qi Geyue, and Song Jiren. Dong Shuang ordered dumplings. I ordered stir-fried pork. Xiao Yan couldn't understand how I afforded it, but Qi Geyue had noticed my new watch, over 100 yuan. Then Xiao Yan made her move. Someone was carrying a full bowl of hot soup past our table. Xiao Yan deliberately shoved Qi Geyue into the man, sending the scalding soup flying toward my face. I reacted instantly, grabbed a chair, and blocked it. The soup splashed everywhere, except on me. The man got burned and dropped his bowl. Xiao Yan threw herself on the floor, pretending she'd been hurt in the collision. I pointed at her and said she did it on purpose. She smirked and asked if I had proof. Then a voice came from the corner of the room. I saw everything. A man sitting in the corner spoke up, tall, at least 6'1", with a buzz cut and fierce eyes. He looked like someone who'd done time in prison. He pointed straight at Xiao Yan and described exactly what happened. She deliberately shoved Qi Geyue, who crashed into the soup man, sending scalding broth flying at my face. If I hadn't grabbed a chair to block it, my face would have been burned. Xiao Yan panicked and tried every excuse. The floor was slippery. It was an accident. It was the restaurant's fault for not cleaning properly. The server shut that down immediately. She was known throughout the entire town as Prung 3 times because she cleaned everything 3 times over. Her floors were spotless. Xiao Yan turned to Chi Gothiwa for backup, but even Chi Gothiwa wouldn't cover for her. She'd realized Xiao Yan had used her as a weapon without warning, shoved her into a stranger to burn my face. That crossed a line even for Chi Gothiwa. She said coldly, "I didn't see anything clearly. All I know is you slammed into me. Songjaran?" He vanished the moment the big scary witness started talking. So much for the hero. The cook came out, gave the burned man some ointment, and calmed him down. The server told Xiao Yan she needed to apologize, clean the floor, and pay for the broken bowl. Xiao Yan bowed to me with theatrical sincerity, holding her bow like she was at a funeral. I told her I didn't accept her apology. The man in the corner applauded. Some bystanders told me to be more generous. Dong Shuang exploded at them. "If you're so generous, you pay for the bowl and clean the floor. It wasn't your face that almost got burned." They scattered instantly. Xiao Yan was forced to sweep and mop the restaurant floor while I sat down and waited for my stir-fried pork. She gripped that broom with murder in her eyes, swearing to herself that my luck couldn't last forever. Xiao Yan fled with her steamed buns after cleaning the floor. Chi Gui slunk away too. She didn't have the nerve to stick around after being used as a battering ram. Then Song Jiren materialized from wherever he'd been hiding and rushed over to me, pretending to be concerned. Before he could finish his act, the tall man from the corner spoke up again. "Scared enough to hide, were you? Didn't wet yourself, did you?" Dong Shuang nearly choked on her dumpling. Song Jiren, not even looking, snapped back. "Mind your own business, mutt." Then he turned around and realized who he'd just insulted. The man stood up and walked toward him, nearly 6'3", built like someone who could kill an ox with one punch. Song Jiren looked like a baby chick next to him. Instead of apologizing, Song Jiren did something even stupider. He pointed between me and the man and declared we must be having an affair, that I'd changed because this man was backing me up. His eyes were red with jealousy, like a husband who'd been cheated on, which was absurd since he'd never been anything to me. The man told him to shut up, called him a coward, and walked out without looking back. With his protector gone, Song Jiren turned his anger on me. He blamed me for causing trouble, defended Xiao Yan, and said I was making everyone uncomfortable. Then he delivered his brilliant line. "It takes 2 hands to clap." I stood up and slapped him across the face so hard he staggered sideways and saw stars. "Does it?" I said, blowing on my hand. Sounded pretty loud with just one. I told him clearly, "Stay away from me. Stop dragging me into his drama with Xiao Yan. Next time, it won't be just a slap." Something in my eyes must have reached him, because for the first time, I saw real fear flicker across his face. He swallowed whatever he was about to say. Dong Shuang and I walked out together. She called me her good friend. I paused. It had been a long time since anyone said that to me. In the apocalypse, there were allies, subordinates, and enemies. Friends were a luxury. She bumped my arm. "We're good friends, right?" I smiled. "Good friends." Behind us, from a dark alley, came a quiet laugh, light, warm, and pleased. Someone had been watching. The ride back was awkward. Everyone on the cart had their own bitter thoughts. Xiao Yan kept staring at my 2 big sacks from the post office, burning with jealousy. Song Jiren sat with his head down, nursing his slapped face. Chi Guthiwa was quiet for once. Gung Jibin kept sweating and sneaking glances at me. Only Dong Shuang was relaxed, sleeping against my bags the whole way. Old Luo was kind enough to drive the cart all the way to the youth quarters instead of stopping at the village entrance, his way of thanking me for saving Xiao Bao. When we stopped, Gung Jibin offered to carry my bags inside. I told him straight, "Don't waste your time on me." He got the message and left. Bai Qinghao gave me a polite nod and walked in without a word. He had good sense. I slipped a small paper package into old Luo's pocket as a thank you, some snacks to go with his evening drink. Back at the quarters, I asked Chong Li to take us to the village carpenter. His name was He, and his situation broke my heart a little. He was deaf and mute. His wife had a severe limp and some form of cerebral palsy. She could barely walk or speak, though her mind was sharp. Their young son was also deaf and mute. The whole family communicated through gestures. Despite everything, their small courtyard was spotless, neatly stacked firewood, a tidy vegetable garden, everything clean and organized. These were people who refused to let their disabilities define how they lived. The wife struggled to greet us, but managed a warm smile. She sent her boy running to the fields to fetch his father. Dong Shuang watched her, and I could see it hit her hard. Things most people take for granted, like speaking or walking, were daily battles for this woman. Yet she carried herself with dignity. Dong Shuang whispered to me, "Let's order extra things from them." She wanted to help. I had bigger plans than just a storage box. I'd be here for 4 years until the college entrance exam was reinstated, so I wanted to be comfortable. I ordered a full wardrobe, a tall cabinet with sections for hanging clothes, folding clothes, and storing bedding, like the ones that became popular in the 1980s. I sketched the design on the ground with a rock. Carpenter, his eyes lit up when he saw my drawing. He'd never seen a design like that before, but he was confident he could build it. He pounded his chest enthusiastically. I also ordered 2 storage boxes, bigger than what the other youth workers had. When it came time to discuss the price, Carpenter, he was visibly nervous. He calculated carefully 15 yuan for everything, including 2 boxes and the wardrobe. His wife announced the price with trembling uncertainty. I shook my head. Their hearts sank, thinking I'd say it was too expensive. Instead, I told them 15 was too cheap for all that work and materials. I paid 20 yuan on the spot. Carpenter, his eyes turned red with emotion. His wife thanked me, barely getting the words out through her speech difficulty. Their little boy had warmed up to me by then, accepting some fruit candy and signing, "Thank you," with his small hands. This family, deaf father, disabled mother, mute son, living in a world that offered them so little, yet they kept their homes spotless, worked hard, and greeted strangers with dignity. Dong Shuang felt it too. On the way back, Chong Li pulled me aside with gentle advice. "Most people here are kind," she said, "but there are always exceptions. Stay alert. Don't trust too easily." She was warning me about the dangers of beautiful girl faces in the countryside. I told her I understood, and I meant it more than she could know. Then she took us to the hillside where we'd gather firewood. She explained that the nearby area was safe, but deeper in the mountains there were wild animals, hunters' traps, and underground rivers that could swallow a person whole. Winter here demanded mountains of firewood, so collecting it was a daily task. We gathered some branches, tied them with grass vines, and carried them back. Even something this small felt productive. 1 bundle at a time, preparing for winter. On the walk back, I brought up the food situation with Chong Li. We'd been eating the old workers' grain, and I felt bad about it. She explained that new youth workers are entitled to 3 months of government-supplied grain before earning their own through work points. Bao Zhiguan never skimmed. He distributed everything fairly. But even so, the reality was clear. You won't starve, but you won't eat well either. I suggested that we new workers cook dinner tonight. Chong Li read between the lines immediately. She knew I was planning to deal with Xiao Yan and Shi Gohue. She didn't object, just told me not to make things too ugly since we'd only just arrived. When Dong Shuang told her what really happened at the restaurant, that Xiao Yan deliberately tried to burn my face with hot soup, Chong Li was stunned. She realized these weren't just petty, lazy girls. They were dangerous. Back at the quarters, I checked the padlock on our door. The glue I'd secretly applied was smudged with fingerprints. Someone had tried to get in while we were gone. I started unpacking my sacks. Xiao Yan appeared instantly, pretending to offer help while her eyes greedily scanned every item I pulled out. I told her to go chop firewood or cook dinner instead. She suddenly developed a headache and retreated to lie down. Shi Gohue didn't even show her face. Neither of them wanted to do any work, just eat. I pulled out everything: wash basin, toiletries, clothes, shoes, work gloves, a sun hat, a radio, books, snacks. Dong Shuang and Chong Li were amazed at how much fit in one sack. I played it off awkwardly, saying sacks from my hometown were just bigger. For dinner, I used half the rice Bao Zhiguan had given me. Dong Shuang picked eggplant and peppers from the garden and peeled some potatoes. Oil was precious here. The whole group shared half a bottle of cooking oil, measured out 1 spoonful per meal. I followed their rules. This wasn't my kitchen to run yet. Cooking without oil was a challenge. I threw the vegetables into the pot, stir-fried them briefly before they could burn, then added water to make a stew. I set up a steamer over the pot for the rice. Simple, practical, no-frills countryside cooking. Dong Shuang fed the fire while I handled the rest. When the old workers came back from the fields, they were pleasantly surprised. Rice for dinner, courtesy of the grain Bao Zhigua had given me. Everyone appreciated it. They also noticed the big bundle of firewood we'd gathered. Changli made sure to credit Dong Shuang and me, noting pointedly that the other two hadn't helped with anything. Then Xiao Yan and Shi Guiyue appeared with their bowls, ready to eat. I pressed down on Xiao Yan's hand before she could scoop rice. I laid it out clearly. The rice was mine, the cooking was done by Dong Shuang and me, the vegetables were grown by the group, the firewood we'd gathered ourselves, and the water was hauled by old workers. What had they contributed? Nothing. Lu Xiaoshu backed me up. She told Xiao Yan to either borrow grain from the brigade or do some actual work. Xiao Yan ran off crying to the men's quarters, where she weaseled her way into their dinner by helping cook and playing the victim. Some of the guys felt sorry for her. One named Su Fengshun even suggested they intervene on her behalf, but Wang Hui shut that down. The brigade leader was coming tomorrow with the new workers' grain rations anyway. The next morning, Bao Zhigua came to assign our garden plots, 1/10 of a mu each, right next to the old workers' plots. He mentioned he was heading to town to pick up our grain rations and offered to take anyone who needed to go. Dong Shuang was dealing with her period and stayed behind. I wanted to check out the local scrap collection station, so I grabbed my basket and headed to the brigade compound. Xiao Yan decided to follow me, convinced I was up to something she could use against me. She needed backup, so she bribed Qi Guiyue with a promise. That red scarf with gold she'd been eyeing at the supply store. 2 yuan 50. Qi Guiyue's eyes lit up immediately. Qi Guiyue didn't trust Xiao Yan, so she demanded the money up front before agreeing to come along. Xiao Yan grudgingly handed over 2 yuan 50. They climbed onto the cart and tried to make conversation with me the whole way. I ignored them completely. At the town, Bao Zhigua dropped us at the supply store and reminded us we had 2 hours. The moment the cart left, Xiao Yan grabbed my arm, begging to clear up our misunderstanding. I'd finally had enough. I told her plainly, the best relationship we could have is no relationship at all. I told her to spend her energy on Song Jiren, who actually enjoys her act. I said I wanted her to pretend she didn't know me from now on. Then I pulled my arm free and walked away. I headed for the scrap collection station, hoping for another lucky find. I activated Big Wheel's X-ray vision and scanned the area. But what I found wasn't inside the station, it was in the courtyard next door on the other side of the alley. 2 children were tied up inside. One was about 3 or 4 years old, face streaked with tears, barely conscious. The other was maybe 7 or 8, bruised but alert, watching the room with frightened eyes. Both had their hands and feet bound, mouths gagged. They'd been beaten. Human traffickers. They'd kidnapped these children. I abandoned my treasure, hunting immediately. I circled around to the front of the building, scanned for anyone nearby with X-ray vision, then jumped over the wall into the yard. I had Big Will knock both children unconscious, so I could move them safely, then pulled them into my space without leaving a trace. Big Will cleaned the scene. I needed to get somewhere private, wake them up, and find out where they lived. But as I was leaving the alley, I walked straight into a group of men and recognized 2 of them. They were the same men who'd tried to lure Dong Shuang and me away in the county town. The ones I'd suspected were human traffickers. I'd hoped they wouldn't recognize me. But in a world where everyone is thin and sun-darkened, my pale face stands out like a spotlight. "Stop," one of them said. "Isn't that the girl from the county town?" They recognized me instantly. A face like mine isn't forgettable. I tried to walk past them and out of the alley, but they surrounded me. The alley was deserted, the nearby houses abandoned. They felt safe. I slipped a dagger from my space into my sleeve, ready to kill every last one of them. These people kidnap children and prey on women. They deserve it. But before I could act, a familiar lazy voice drifted in from the alley entrance. Getting brave, boys? Snacking behind my back and Xiangdis. It was the tall man from the restaurant, the one who'd stood up for me against Xiao Yan. He came with a middle-aged man called Xiangji, who looked worn and haggard. The moment these two appeared, every thug in the alley went quiet and obedient. Xiangji looked at me coldly and said one word, "Take her." I put the dagger away. The tall man, they called him Luatoa, meaning camel, pulled me into his arms, then threw me over his shoulder like a sack. He even slapped my backside and announced he was claiming me. His men hooped and cheered. I was furious but played along, screaming and crying like a helpless girl. Inside my head, I was calculating. He carried me straight to the room where I'd rescued the children. I panicked. If they saw the kids were missing, my cover was blown. While I thrashed against him, pretending to claw at his face, I used the distraction to put both children back from my space into their original positions. Once inside the bedroom, Camel kicked the door shut, dropped me on the bed, threw a blanket over me, and pulled the curtain mostly closed. Then he leaned over me and whispered, "Trust me. Play along. You'll be fine." He stripped down to his shorts, and I'll admit, the man was built impressively, then dove under the blanket with me. He started doing push-ups over me to make the bed shake convincingly. Xiangji's men were crowded at the window, peeking through the gap in the curtain. "Can you moan?" he whispered. I stared at him blankly. "Then cry," he said. I suddenly understood. He was performing for his audience. He was undercover, an infiltrator inside this criminal gang. He'd never touched any of the women the gang leader offered him, always making excuses. Xiangji was growing suspicious. A man with too much self-control, who doesn't chase money or women, doesn't fit the profile of a criminal. So Camel needed to put on a convincing show, and I'd accidentally become his prop. His name was Si Lu, though the gang called him Camel. I pieced together his story from what I could observe and overhear. He'd first noticed me at the train station, saw me trip Song Jiren. He spotted me again at the restaurant and, against his better judgment, spoke up to defend me. He even waited in the alley afterward to make sure I left safely. For someone in deep cover, any unnecessary contact is dangerous. Yet he kept crossing paths with me. Under the blanket, he whispered at me to cry. So I whimpered, "It hurts," in my softest voice. The effect on him was immediate. His push-ups got much faster. The men outside hooted and laughed. Xiangji finally told everyone to scatter and stop watching. Once they left, he stopped. We lay there in the heat of the blanket, both flushed. I'll admit, I was curious. My hands wandered to his waist, then his back, then his arms. I squeezed his muscles. He made a sound that suggested I was testing his limits. He got up abruptly, and I caught a quick glimpse before looking away. The men's bragging wasn't entirely unfounded. He went outside shirtless, where Xiangji was smoking. The gang leader noticed the scratch marks and bruises on his arms, my handiwork, and seemed satisfied. They discussed what to do with me. Si Lu played cold, suggesting they kill me since women cause problems. But Xiangji overruled him. They were heading into the mountains soon, and he ordered Si Lu to keep me. Si Lu negotiated one condition. Nobody else touches her. Back inside, he found me wrapped in the blanket like a cocoon. He sensed someone eavesdropping at the door, so we kept performing. He played the rough captor. I played the terrified victim, begging to be released. But my mind was racing. I was fairly sure Si Lu was undercover, probably law enforcement infiltrating this gang. His self-control, his refusal to harm women, his calculated behavior, it all pointed that direction. But I wasn't certain yet. And I had a practical problem. If I didn't make it back by departure time, the mule cart would leave without me. If I didn't return to the youth quarters tonight, the entire Victory Brigade would panic. Bao Zhigua would send people looking. The whole situation would explode. The mule cart waited for me at the supply store for over 3 hours. Bao Zhigua had old Luo drive around the town 3 times looking for me. Nothing. Eventually, they had to go back without me. I didn't come home that night. Dong Shuang barely slept. She blamed herself if she'd come along. maybe I wouldn't have gotten into trouble. At dawn, she ran straight to Baojigua. The brigade leader was deeply worried. He called an emergency meeting with all the youth workers and told them to keep my absence quiet. If word got out that a female worker didn't come home overnight, the rumors alone could destroy my life and reflect badly on the entire brigade and youth program. He left the deputy in charge of daily work and rushed to town with old Luo. A missing educated youth was a serious matter. He needed to notify the youth office and possibly file a police report. His oldest son worked at the town's police station, which might help. Chongli stopped Dong Shuang from following. You'll only get in the way. If you disappear too, that's even worse. Meanwhile, Xiaoyan was thrilled. She was practically glowing at the thought that something terrible might have happened to me. She'd already crafted her plan. Once they got to the fields, she'd sidle up to the local village women, notorious gossips, and casually mention that I hadn't come home last night. She knew exactly what would happen. The women would spin it into the worst possible story. Within days, the whole commune would brand me as loose. She wouldn't even need to say anything explicit. Just plant the seed and let their imaginations do the rest. And if anyone traced it back to her, she'd simply deny it. But Dong Shuang was watching her like a hawk. She knew Xiao Yan's nature. The fake weakness, the poisonous words, the jealousy. Dong Shuang made a silent vow. She'd do nothing today except follow Xiao Yan. If that woman opened her mouth about me, Dong Shuang would beat her senseless. Out in the fields, the new workers were assigned to pull weeds. It was miserable, scorching heat, corn leaves slicing at exposed skin, crouching until your head spun. After a while, Xiaoyan couldn't take it anymore. She slipped away from her section and crept toward a group of village women who were chatting and laughing together, ready to spread her poison. Dong Shuang saved my reputation without even knowing the full picture. Xiaoyan crept over to a group of village women during fieldwork, ready to casually drop the news that I hadn't come home last night. She'd set the trap perfectly. Mention my name, act nervous, and let the gossip machine do the rest. She got as far as Jiang Yan, when a chunk of stinking mud slammed into the back of her head. Dong Shuang stood behind her, grinning like a warrior. She whispered in Xiao Yan's face, "Say one word about Jiang Yan, and I'll kill you." Xiao Yan tried anyway. "I'm going to say it, Jiang." Dong Shuang shoved another handful of mud straight into her open mouth. She pressed her hand over Xiao Yan's face and smeared it in. "Next time, it'll be dog droppings." Xiao Yan gagged and retched all the way back to the quarters. She couldn't say a single word. The village women didn't hear anything about me, but they did start a rumor that the new female worker was vomiting because she was pregnant. Xiao Yan's plan to destroy my reputation had backfired spectacularly onto herself. Meanwhile, I'd followed the gang into the mountains. We ended up behind Qinghe Brigade, the very place where my family was living in exile, at a spot called Tiger Ridge. The two kidnapped children had woken up overnight. They were quiet and alert, which told me they hadn't been permanently drugged. The gang carried them up the mountain in baskets on their backs. I could have escaped at any moment. But I wanted to see where this led, learn more about Silu, and find a way to save those children properly. The mountain path was hidden and treacherous, clearly not a route regular villagers used. The gang knew it well, suggesting they'd done this many times. After a while, I pretended I couldn't walk anymore. I leaned against a tree, panting, showing blisters on my feet. Xiangji told Silu to carry me. Silu cursed and grumbled, but knelt down with his back to me. I hopped on, wrapped my arms around his neck, and pressed against his back. I could feel his heartbeat racing, his steps getting faster, his whole body tensing up. His mind was clearly going places he was trying very hard not to go. I found it rather entertaining. 3 days into the mountains, deep wilderness, poisonous snakes, wild animals, paths that had to be hacked open with machetes. I used Big Wheel to spy on Xiangji's notebook. It was written in Japanese, a diary from the late 1930s, with 2 hand-drawn maps. Everything clicked. During the Japanese occupation, the invaders plundered enormous amounts of treasure from this region. When Japan surrendered, whatever they couldn't ship home was hidden deep in these mountains. For decades afterward, Japanese researchers came back under false pretenses, searching for what was left behind. Seong-ji was either a traitor working for the Japanese or an actual Japanese operative. He'd assembled this gang under the promise of finding buried treasure, but his real purpose was something only he knew, probably connecting with a larger network. That meant Silu, Camel, was almost certainly an undercover agent. His mission wasn't just to catch Seong-ji, but to gain enough trust to reach whoever was behind him. Taking down one man was easy. Dismantling the whole chain required patience. I was an accident in this operation, completely outside his plan. I asked Big Wheel to scan Silu's body for identifying marks. Big Wheel accused me of being attracted to him. I insisted I was looking for evidence, scars, tattoos, anything. The scan showed bullet wounds on his shoulder, knife scars on his back and abdomen, battle scars. This man had been through combat. I decided, if he was what I thought he was, someone serving the country, I would help him. National interest comes above everything else. That was true in the apocalypse, and it's true now. During a rest stop, he handed me his water bottle. I took a sip and looked up to find him studying me intently. I blushed and looked away, still embarrassed by the things I'd been thinking during the body scan. Seong-ji called Si-Lu over and teased him about being frustrated. Si-Lu played his role perfectly, cursing about having to carry me. Seong-ji said they'd reach their destination by nightfall. I could see the whole picture now. Seong-ji planned to find the treasure, meet his contacts, and then eliminate everyone in the group. He had no intention of sharing anything. Meanwhile, back at Victory Brigade, Bao Zhiguo was frantic. His son, a police officer at the town station, suggested filing a missing person report while also creating fake transfer paperwork. That way, if I came back, my reputation would be protected. Officially, I'd been borrowed by another unit, not missing overnight. If I didn't come back, well, missing persons cases piled up every year. In this vast countryside, people simply vanished.